Come to Sam Ash for hundreds of exclusive holiday deals on music and sound gear from the most iconic brands. Save big on professional and starter guitars, drums, digital pianos, horns, violins, DJ, and electronic production equipment. Supercharge your home studio with deals on podcasting, streaming, and AV equipment like speakers, microphones, headphones, and acoustic treatment. Plus, with 36 months no-interest financing on thousands of items, you can get the gear of your dreams right now. From our incredible selection and service to our lowest price guarantee for over 95 years, real musicians know you only go to Sam Ash.
Bruce Arians here with your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. During these difficult times, it's important that we all show we care about our community's health. You could spread COVID-19 without knowing it. Wear a mask, wash your hands, keep your distance from each other, stay strong, and go Bucs.
Realizing my potential has been what my career has been all about. Things that I've dreamed about have actually come true.
And the Patriots have won Super Bowl 36. Unbelievable.
Things have happened in my life as I kind of hoped they would happen. It's been, just a complete evolution. You know, how I just kept kind of fighting and clawing to continue to power forward. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you keep trying to make progress. So when I look at over 20 years, I look how far I've come. But there's not one step that I took where I realized, look how far I've come. But those series of steps that I put together, I go, wow, that's quite a journey.
You're now in the Sports Web, a sports talk show for the hardcore fan. Bring your passion, bring your excitement, just don't bring any nonsense. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another edition of the evolution of Sports Talk Television here live nightly on Bucs Report. It's the Sports Web Pro Football Edition. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. On tonight's show, we will have meteorologist of ABC Action News, Mr. Dennis Phillips, getting us ready for hurricane season. And also, I hear he's a sports fan, so we'll be talking about Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Of course, at 10 o'clock, we will have Mr. Rick Hughes on here, of course, talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and around the NFL. And at 10:30, we will have Mr. Andrew Fulbeer, the big board out of Canada. Let's get this out of the way because it's already been reported from Carmen Vitale of Buccaneers.com. Tom Brady did throw his first interception today. Don't freak out. It was to Mike Edwards. Of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers start full padded practices on Monday. And how we always start off the Sports Web, right? Bring your passion, bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. Open phone line, 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. Of course, this edition is brought to you by mycannabiscard.com. For all your medical marijuana needs, it's mycannabiscard.com. One of the largest cannabis card doctor networks and home of guaranteed fast track card approval. With over 2,500 state licensed doctors and 30 plus qualifying conditions, MyCannabisCard.com is by far the easiest and most cost-effective way to secure your state cannabis card as stress-free as possible in the comforts of your own home. Once again, that's MyCannabisCard.com, and tell them Bucs Report, the Sports Web, and Peter Blake sent you. So there you go, right there. And we will have him on right now. Let's go ahead and get him on. Meteorologist of ABC Action News. I hear he's a big-time sports fan, so we got a lot of things to talk about tonight here on the Sports Web. Mr. Dennis Phillips, welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television, my friend. And I always ask every guest that comes on this show, did you ever think in a million years that Tom Brady was going to be the starting quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
That just that just totals 2020. I mean, I think to myself, you go back and look at history, and you go back and look at guys like Montana and guys like Favre, and and people who spent their lives with one team, and then at the end of the day, they were looking either for some extra cash or maybe they just wanted another challenge. So, why not? I mean, the Bucs have got the receivers that the Patriots no longer have. So, I mean, certainly quite a tasty opportunity for him to have some guys to throw to downfield, as opposed to just Julian Edelman, who was always off the field half the time because he was hurt.
So you feel like he still has it, because I'm hearing national pundits and talking heads here, Dennis, say, well, he's 43 years old. He's getting up there in age. He doesn't have it anymore. His arm strength isn't good enough. And I'm like, it doesn't necessarily have to be because of what you just mentioned. And then on top of it, they go out and get one of his best friends and one of the best tight ends in the decade in a Rob Gronkowski. That's a huge move by the Bucs, right?
It is. Gronk, though, I mean, I think we all know Gronk is injury prone. He's been injury prone for quite a while. He's had all those back issues. And while he's had some time off and maybe an opportunity to heal, you just always wonder in the back of your mind, is he going to be the same Gronk that he was? But even if he isn't, the Bucs have some pretty strong tight ends in addition to Gronk, to keep him. I mean, think all the receivers and the tight ends. I mean, this offense is going to be spectacular. I mean, I think they'll find a way to protect him. I think they'll find a scheme that's going to keep him upright. Is he going to have this arm strength that he had 10 years ago? Probably not. But I don't know. Was his arm strength always Tom Brady's forte, or was it his, everything else, the intangibles that go along with it?
So how long have you been covering weather in the Tampa Bay area? Go ahead and tell everybody out there because not only do we have local people watching the Sports Web, which, by the way, 65,000 following here on Facebook, but they're watching across the world. Tell them a little bit about you and tell them how long you've been covering weather and also the Tampa Bay area.
Well, I moved to the area in 1994. I was working at KCBS in Los Angeles, and I've always wanted to do weather. I mean, I have a passion for sports too, but it's a lot easier to get a job doing weather than it is doing sports when you have a lot of ex-athletes getting into the business and whatnot. So I moved here in 94, and I lived in Gainesville for 3 years. Prior to that, I really liked Florida weather. There was something to talk about most of the time. A lot of storms, some hurricanes, tropical storms, whatnot. So it kept me busy. And, just moving down here was a blessing for me and my family. And we've been here ever since. I mean, I'm coming up on 26 years now. And, in our business, I mean, you kind of know longevity sometimes isn't all that great. You have a tendency to go from place to place. But I've been real lucky that I've been in the Bay Area for 26 years, and hopefully I'll be able to stick around a lot longer.
No, absolutely. And we've got Dennis Phillips, meteorologist of ABC Action News here locally, Channel 28 on the evolution of Sports Talk Television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. It's so interesting because I used to intern at WTSP Channel 10, and there was a meteorologist by the name of Dick Fletcher, and he was also into sports. And when you would talk to him, it seems like guys that get into weather are really into sports. Why do you think that is? I
don't know. I mean, I truly don't. I mean, I knew Dick Fletcher pretty well. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story about him. So Dick was a pretty frail guy, kind of a slight build. Mm-hmm. And you'd look at him and you wouldn't think he was much of an athlete. Well, apparently he was a great tennis player. And we had a charity baseball game. A charity softball game that we played. And this was maybe 20 years ago. I played college ball. I was a walk-on. I didn't play, but I made the team at Penn State. And I kind of expected, all right, I'm going to get out here and do well. And Dick walked out there with a cigarette in his mouth up to home plate. No lie. And you just figured it was fast pitch. It wasn't slow pitch. and you kind of figured he was just going to have a tough time. Man, he laced a double to the fence in right center, and he still kept that cigarette in his mouth the entire time. So, so yeah, I mean, I'm sure you probably know some stories about him too, but Fletch was quite the athlete, especially for a guy who didn't look all that athletic. And in fact, really one of the highlights of my career is about 3 or 4 years ago, I was awarded the Dick Fletcher Award. He died away. He had a stroke. Gosh, I think maybe 8 or 9 years ago, and I was awarded the Dick Fletcher Award for best broadcasting in terms of hurricane coverage for Florida. So that's about as big of an honor as I could ever get. Because I mean, as you mentioned, I mean, Dick was a legend, and so was Roy Leaf in this market. Tampa has a history of some long-running meteorologists, and Dick and Roy were two of them.
Yeah, and much like sports, I mean, you have baseball, you have hockey, of course. Right now, the Tampa Bay Lightning are in a playoff series with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Of course, the Rays, the baseball team. It's been busy sports, whole week with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it always seems like it's busy here. But weather is also busy, and a lot of people go back to 2017, high expectations for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but Hurricane Irma was having none of that. So you got to get everybody ready out there for hurricane season. Let me just ask you this. Are we expecting any big-time major hurricane in 29 days? Because, look, they're playing the Saints, and I don't want anything to stop this matchup, Drew Brees and Tom Brady. So you got to kind of put you got to put your spin on this and tell me if there's going to be a major hurricane in the next 29 days for this game.
Yeah, New Orleans is probably pretty gun shy about that as well, considering they had Katrina back in 2005. So, who's to say whether we're going to have any major hurricanes impacting the Bay Area or Florida? But I will tell you that we've already had 10, 11 storms already, but I really think from the end of August until the first week in October, it is going to be very, very active in Florida. Now, that's not to say we're going to get a landfall. We have not had a major hurricane hit in the Bay Area directly in 100 years. A lot of people don't realize that. 1921 was the last major hurricane to hit the Bay Area directly, so it's pretty rare. So the odds are certainly in our favor, but then you have the folks saying, well, then we're long overdue. So yeah, I will tell you, if one's coming this way, you're going to get a lot of notice. At this point, I just looked at some of the long-range models. There's nothing to worry about. I mean, so far, we are good to go for the next 7 to 10 days. That's probably about as far as I'm willing to go out.
All right. Well, and I'll tell you right now, Hurricane Brady may be coming to the Saints there in New Orleans. A lot of expectations for him, a lot of weapons, of course. What kind of advantage do you think the Bucs and Brady have by going to the Saints and having no fans to play to? Because to me, big time advantage for the Bucs.
Yeah, I mean, playing in the Dome, I mean, that's always a real challenging area with them. I mean, there's some stadiums and some arenas that you just have that home field advantage, and the noise is just a huge issue. And New Orleans was one of them. My son lives in New Orleans. He's actually a final year medical student in Tulane, and he said he's been to games where it has just been, he's never heard anything like it. And we went to the Stanley Cup Finals, Game 7, when the Bolts beat Calgary back in 05. And so, I mean, or was that 04? Actually, 04, I guess.
Yes, 04.
Yeah. So we've been to some really loud places, but you're right. It's going to really change the atmosphere. And for me, I think what even more so than pro football, it's college football. I mean, the area, I'm a Big Ten guy. I'm a Penn State grad. So they've already canceled, until the spring at least. But I mean, I think if there's any sport that home field advantage probably comes into play, it's probably college football more than anything else. And you wonder how it's going to impact a lot of those sports. I mean, you were talking about, I grew up a Caps fan. I'll be honest with you. I grew up in DC, so I've been a Caps fan all my life. And yet I love the Bolts as well. So it's kind of you're torn, you like both teams. And when they play each other very often in the playoffs, it's a real challenging thing. But watching these games, like I'm watching the Caps and the Islanders right now. In fact, that's why I was a few minutes late. Like, oh man, I gotta make a gun of it.
All right, you're watching sports right now. You're making a sacrifice to be on this show. So,
well, I was watching the Blues and the Canucks, and the Canucks were up 3-2 with about 5 minutes left. Last I saw, but my point is, even with the NBA, I mean, I don't know about you, but I watch it, And seeing all those cutouts and all the video monitors of the people, it kind of freaks me out.
Yes, it's weird. It's very weird. It's the same thing with baseball. I'm watching baseball. You're hearing all this sound, and you're thinking there's fans there. There's no fans there, and then you're seeing these weird cutouts, and they're not just, it doesn't look just like fans. It's just weird stuff. Like had a Bernie cutout in Kansas City.
That's awesome.
The weekend at Bernie's, yeah, but it's kind of weird at the same time. It's like, what am I watching here? So I'm trying to get used to it. How surprised are you that the Big Ten and a lot of college football has called off some of these games this year?
Floored, absolutely floored. I never dreamed that major college football would not play. I figured maybe they wouldn't have fans in the stands. Maybe they would go that far. But there's so much money in college football. I just never dreamed that this would happen. I'm still shocked. I really am. And again, I look forward to college football probably more than anything in the world in terms of sports. So to lose my Nittany Lions until the spring at least, it's crazy. But I mean, it just shows you, how far we still have to go, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and of course you've got some Nittany Lions on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Donovan Smith. There's a lot of fans out there.
Chris Godwin. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. Chris Godwin. A lot of fans, they really like him. Think he not only he broke out last year, but he's one of the top 5 wide receivers in the league. Talk about those two players and how much they meant to Penn State's program and meant to you watching them.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I'm older. So, I mean, back in the day when I was in school, there were people like Kurt Warner and Todd Blackledge and, guys like that. And then Kajana Carter back in the 90s. But for me, I honestly think my favorite Penn State player of all time is probably Saquon. And the guy is just a beast. And I mean, everybody's seen the videos of when he's in the gym. The last week when he was sitting or standing in a pool, a swimming pool, and jumped out of the pool onto the deck. I mean, just the guy's got just an insane amount of strength, and he's just so much fun to watch. So, yeah, I think everybody, if their alma mater has some players that are competing in the NFL, it just brings a little more loyalty, a little more love to the game. And I'm not a Giants fan at all, never have been, but watching Saquon, and ironically enough, if you remember last year, he got hurt against the Bucs.
Yes, and that kind of made you think, Dennis, that they were going to win that game, and then they have a big lead in the first half, and then here come the Giants with a rookie quarterback. It's it's kind of plagued this defense, but this defense to me is kind of being overlooked. Is that what you see from last year? Because first part of the year, you have Vernon Hargraves. They get rid of him because he doesn't work and he's not giving enough effort. And then you have these young kids come in like a Sean Murphy Bunting and a Jamel Dean and a Carlton Davis and get JPP back. And it certainly seems like it transformed this defense into a lot better one. And I feel like they're going to be overlooked. Is that how you feel about this defense in 2020?
It is. And I think what's going to be nice for them is I don't think there's going to be an expectation for them to win a game. Their expectation, I think, of the defense is going to be keep the D in the game and let the offensive stars win it for them. And with Godwin and with Evans and with Gronk and with everybody else, I mean, the running game is still something that I find fascinating. I mean, who knows what's going to play out with that? I mean, is McCoy going to be a big part of it, or is it going to be Jones or what? But to me, the defense just has to keep him in the game. And you're right. They showed a lot of improvement the last half of last year. And a lot of people just weren't noticing that because everybody was just focused on Jameis. I mean, everybody was focused on Jameis giving games away, and they weren't really seeing how the defense was at least competing and keeping them in the game, especially when you were giving up pick sixes or giving a short field all the time after turnovers. So I agree with you. I'm not saying that I think the defense is going to win them games, but I think the defense is going to keep them in the games and allow that offense to do what it probably will do. I mean, the big question to me is, will Tom Brady stay healthy? He's always been healthy in the past. He has. I mean, yeah, he's getting older. Maybe he doesn't have the arm strength, but he's got the moxie and he's got the experience. And hopefully the O-line will keep him upright long enough that he can, because all the guy's got to do is throw it up to either Evans or Godwin, and probably one of those two is going to catch it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you talked about the tight end situation, not only a Gronk, but also an O.J. Howard and a Cameron Brate. And we're on with Dennis Phillips, meteorologist of ABC Action News, Channel 28 here locally on the evolution of sports talk television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. I want to go back to hockey because you said something that was key. How disappointed were you that the Lightning could not get past the Caps? Then again, the Caps go on to finally win that Stanley Cup. That was bittersweet, right?
That was more sweet than bitter for me. I mean, I will be honest. I mean, let me tell you a story. Back in 2004, this is a great story. When the Bolts won the Stanley Cup, all right, it was an ABC telecast. So we were broadcasting out there, and we pretty much, my son and I, my oldest son, I have 6, but my oldest son and I, we begged, borrowed, and stole every way we could to get into every one of those playoff games. And a buddy of mine's parents were Pavel Kavina's parents. So he got us into Game 5 when we lost Game 5 at home to Calgary. We had to go to Game 6 up in Calgary. We had to win that to get it back to Game 7 here at the Ice Palace back then when it was called. So I went on eBay. The Bolts were up 1-0 after the first period. And I went on eBay and I found 2 tickets center ice for Game 7 for $900. Now, it's pricey, but how many times do you ever get a chance to see your home team in a Game 7 of anything to win either their Stanley Cup or their World Series or whatever the case may be? So I went on eBay and I got those tickets, and the Bolts won in OT. So Game 7, guy shows up. He was a broker in Arizona, and he flew out with all these tickets, and he comes up to me and he goes, Dennis, they didn't know me. He goes, here you go. Here's your 2 tickets. He goes, I will buy them back for you right now for $3,000. I paid $900 for the 2. Said, I'll buy them back for $3,000. And I looked at my son and I go, Brett, he was 11 years old. Brett, this is your call. You can either go to Game 7 and watch this team play the Game 7, or I will buy you a big screen TV for your room. Now, back in 2004, not a lot of people had big screen TVs, especially kids. So I said, the choice is yours, because it was going to be $2,000 profit if I did it. And he looked at me and he goes, and I thought for sure he was going to take the TV. He looked at me and goes, Dad, I want to go to Game 7.
There you go.
So we went to the game, and forever, the rest of our lives, we will have that moment shared. As he counted down, he actually counted down and did the same monologue that Al Michaels did in the 1980 U.S. Olympic team, where he counted down, do you believe in miracles? Yes. I mean, I still remember that. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. So sports in our family is a huge thing. And as answering your question, the way that the Caps came back, I was so thrilled for Alex Ovechkin. You know, I know Bolts fans aren't real fans of Ovi probably, but for me, I think he deserved to win a cup. I really believe that. And I was on a cruise ship on game when they clinched the finals against Vegas, and I could not watch the game because they didn't have the TV on the cruise ship, believe it or not. So I was watching on this phone that I'm holding. I'm watching on YouTube TV, and I literally sat there. I started crying when they won because if you've been a Caps fan from day one, which I was from the first year they started in the mid 70s, to finally see them win and to see them blow so many leads the way that they did, it was a huge thing for me. That said, I'm a huge Bolts fan too. So, I mean, it's a no-lose situation for me this year, unless they both get knocked out. And, right now we'll see how that plays out. This year, I don't even know what to think anymore. I mean, I have no idea who's going to even favored in the NHL finals. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know where it's going to go with this.
Are you a little bit worried about Game 3 tomorrow night against Columbus?
You know what? I don't think so. I think that team swept the Bolts last year. Nobody expected it. And even though Columbus is a good team, I mean, that's what I think. Sometimes you get some fans who maybe don't know as much about the sport, or they're just following it because they're playoffs. Like, well, it's Columbus. Columbus is a really good team. And, oh, by the way, who's their coach? Exactly, right? So the point is, I just think that folks think, they can just blow through this team because the Bolts should have been a number 1 seed and probably would have been a number 1 seed if the season had played out the way it always would have. I just think Columbus is one of those tough teams that they play hard. They play physical, and the Bolts have had so much skill that I think they needed to step up the physicality. And I think they've kind of done it so far. I think the Bolts come through. I still think the Bolts win it in 6, but still, it's just such a crazy. I mean, you're watching hockey the entire day, every day for the next month and a half. It's great. I mean, that part of it I love.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it takes away the thought of not having any fans because it's been such great hockey. And then on top of it, they've done such a great job in the bubble with having no COVID-19, opt-outs or anything like that. Nobody's gotten it at this So they've done a very good job, as well as the NBA has done a good job. We're on with Dennis Phillips here, meteorologist of ABC Action News on the evolution of sports talk television. It's the Sports Web. So I know we're talking sports, but can you give everybody out there, all the web heads, some hurricane safety advice? Because it is hurricane season, and there's a lot of people out there still worried about this storm situation, especially with it being 2020 right now.
Yeah, by the way, as I'm looking at the score, the Caps were up 1-0 after one. Now it's the Islanders 3-2 in the second. So yet again, Holtby's caving just like he did in game one. And the Blues actually have gone OT. They caught up to the Canucks at the very end. I'm sitting there looking at the scores as we go. Hurricane season, here's the bottom line. There's nothing more important than this. Hide from the wind, run from the water. That is the keys to live by. So if you're in an area and a storm is coming and you're near the water and they tell you to evacuate, you don't mess with the water, because water is something you will not be able to get away from. It comes in, the surge will devastate areas. We have not had many of those years. Like I said, once in 100 years in the Bay Area. Are we overdue? You can make that argument, I guess. But what I tell people,
Dennis, that is.
Something is my personal take is it isn't just dumb luck. Something happens that keeps storms from wanting to go in this direction. And there's actually a really good reason for that. Most hurricanes want to go directly toward the poles up north, right? So if we have nothing to, I don't say nothing to worry about, but if a storm comes in from the East Coast, we're not going to get devastated. We're not going to have surge. We're going to have wind, right? Wind is bad, but you can get through that. Our worst case scenario is a storm that comes in from the south, goes between Cuba and the Yucatan, and hooks a right turn into Central Florida at the end. Now what they want to do is they want to go north into the Panhandle. And if you think about it, that makes sense, because most hurricanes coming in from the Gulf go to the Panhandle, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what they want to do. Something has to turn it into Central Florida. What would that something be? It's going to be a front. Well, how many fronts do we get in July and August? Not too many. We don't get a cold front very often, right? Yeah. So it's got to probably be later in the season, and the conditions have to be just right, where a little front kind of steers it into our area. So the odds of that happening on any given year are pretty slim. But if you're worried about it, don't worry about East Coast storms. Yeah. Will you lose power for a while? Yeah. Will you have some trees down? Yeah. But are you going to have a devastating hurricane coming from the east side of the state? You won't. For us, it's a West Coast, a Gulf of Mexico storm that comes in, misses Cuba, misses the Yucatan, and comes into Florida, and in our area specifically. And the biggest thing to remember on that is if you're in a flood zone, get out of the flood zone and leave at least 24 hours earlier. Because if you don't, you'd rather be in your house than stuck in the road somewhere in your car for 2 days, because you can't get gas and you can't get over the bridges because they've shut them all, because they shut them at 40-mile-an-hour winds.
And I actually think that Florida has the advantage, Dennis, because when those hurricanes do come through, they have to go through Cuba and they have to go through those mountains, which basically breaks it up and makes it weak. Of course, what you always have to worry about is with the temperature getting up to 88, 90 degrees. It's unseasonably hot this year. Why is it so hot in Florida? I get it. I'm from here. I've been here all my life, but it just seems so hot. What's going on with the temperatures?
Yeah, that's one of those questions. That's one that you just can't even answer. I mean, you're going to have folks saying it's climate change. You're going to have some people say that it just happens to be above normal for this year. Truth be told, I don't think anybody really has that answer. I mean, there are many years where the sea surface temperature is below average. This year, all the ingredients are coming together for a really active year. Warm temperatures, a La Nina developing, which limits upper level winds and allows storms to develop further. I mean, all the ingredients are coming together. But you know what? If they're all out in the middle of the ocean, who cares? If a hurricane forms, and if it's a Cat 5 or a Cat 12 or a 20, or you know what I'm saying, but they're all out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and they don't bother anybody, then it was a quiet year. But if we have one storm that comes our way and it happens to hit us, then everybody's going to say it was a very active year. So yes, the water temperature is warmer this year. Could be a lot of reasons why, but I think the end result is we don't want to see anything in the Eastern Gulf this time of the year, because you're right. That water temp is up on 90 degrees.
I heard you're working on some other projects too. Rule 7, what's that all about?
Yeah, well, back in 2012, the RNC, the Republican National Convention, was here, right? And we had a hurricane coming, Hurricane Isaac. Right. And people were freaking out and they were all worried about it. And I was real confident it was going to stay west of us. So I just jotted down these little rules of things to maybe make your life a little less stress-filled when it comes to hurricane predictions, models, and whatnot. And one of them was, don't freak out unless I'm freaking out. We're fine. That was Rule 7. And it was almost just kind of a throwaway. Well, it somehow took on a life of its own. Rule number 7 has its own merchandise now. I have my own beer from the Crooked Thumb Brewery in Safety Harbor, rule number 7. And now my wife has been making these rule number 7 wine tumblers, and we've been donating the money to the Children's Miracle Network and Feeding Tampa Bay. So it's been a really fun charitable thing for the family, but at the same time, it's always good to push your brand, you know?
No, absolutely. I know all about pushing a brand here. We do that every night here on Bucs Report, 5 nights a week from 9 to 12. Of course, we got Al Keck's show on Tuesdays at 9 o'clock, but every night we're talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, talking around the NFL because everybody's just ready for it. And with the global pandemic going on, it's just made everybody crazy. So what I try to do, as much as what you try to do when talking about weather, I try to calm everybody's nerves down. Everybody asks me, are we going to have an NFL season? Yes, we're going to have an NFL season. So with all that being said, what are your expectations of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020?
I think anything less than playoffs is a disappointment. I mean, I know it's been a long time. What, 2007, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And yet, I honestly think anything less than playoffs is a disappointment. I mean, they paid the money to get Brady. They paid the money to get Gronk. I'm sure it was a package deal anyway. I still have serious doubts Gronk makes it through that season healthy. But as you said, with O.J. Howard and with Cameron Brate, I mean, they've got plenty of tight ends. They've got probably the best receiving pair in football. I don't think probably about it. I think with Godwin and Evans, I think you do. So I think I'm looking 10-6 or 11-5 and making the playoffs. I mean, I just think it's crazy to think otherwise. I hope they don't underperform, but you've got the quarterback, you've got the receivers, you've got a coach. It's a pretty good combination.
Yeah, it is a pretty good combination. And I've kind of said this on the show, Super Bowl or bust. And people said, well, what if it's a bust this year because of the pandemic? Well, like you said, you don't pay $25 million for a quarterback and $10 million for a tight end just to make the playoffs. I feel like you have to at least win one of those playoff games. And even then, with the Super Bowl being in your own backyard and never having a team accomplish it, I feel like just because it is 2020, Tom Brady and the Bucs can get it done. One more final question, and I'll get you out of here. I remember this date. It's the Century Storm, the no-name storm in Florida's history. How does that stack up? Because I remember it still to this day. I believe it was 93 or 94.
It was 93. No, it was 94. It was 94.
94. The reason why I remember is because every Florida team got trounced that night. The Tampa Bay Lightning lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Florida State lost in the first round. They have a really good basketball team to Clemson. They got trounced. The Orlando Magic got trounced by 30 with Shaq on the team against the Atlanta Hawks. The funny thing was it was snowing outside, and I still can remember it to this day. It really caught people off guard. Was that one of the worst weather situations of all time?
I was not living here at that time, but I will tell you a funny story. We talked about Roy Leap. Meteorologist at Channel 13. I mean, Roy is pretty much the dean of weather here in the Bay Area. He was at Channel 13 for, 30 or 40 years, and really was the man. And so a friend of mine, my co-anchor, who I eventually worked with down the road, Trina Robinson, she used to work at Channel 13. And she said that nobody expected that storm to do what it did. And she was working the overnight shift. And she had to call Roy at home and say, get your butt out of bed because all hell's breaking loose and we need you in here. So, I mean, I really think people knew that it was going to be bad. I just don't think they knew it was going to be as bad as it really was. I'll tell you, I was working in Providence, Rhode Island at the time. I was there for maybe 6 months. And I remember reading something from the Weather Service a few days out. I'll never forget this. I don't know who it was who wrote this, but they actually said, I would not be shocked if the storm of the century forms in the next couple of days. So whoever that forecaster was absolutely nailed it because we had winds of about 90 to 95 mile an hour here. I know a lot of people who said that they had more water come in to where they live with that storm than any hurricane they've ever had since they've lived here.
Yeah, I mean, I was next door and there was actually a house that got struck by lightning about 3 o'clock in the morning and it set it on fire. And I had to go to the house when the house was on fire and get everybody up because nobody had any expectations, knew nothing was going on. So it was definitely a powerful storm and we nearly got hit by a tornado. At the time, I was living in Port Richey, so it was absolutely a scary situation. But I tell you right now, when this guy is a meteorologist on ABC Action News, I definitely feel comfortable. Go ahead and promote yourself once again here, Mr. Dennis Phillips.
Well, thanks again. Yeah, I'm Chief Meteorologist here, ABC Action News, Monday through Friday, the 5 to 6 and the 11 o'clock show. And I do have my own telecast. It's called Dennis Phillips Live every Tuesday and Thursday night from 7 to 8-ish, as long as we want to go. And anytime there's any severe weather or tropics, we do this. We do the storms there, and we do that with the show as well. So my take is nowadays, and boy, you are living proof of this. I mean, this is no longer the medium where you sit back and you just watch a newscast a couple of times a day or a sportscast. I mean, it is all interactive. That is where we have gone. That is where the future of this business and this medium is. And the live, I mean, folks are expecting instant gratification when it comes to broadcasting like this. They want to be able to ask questions. They want to be able to see what's happening right now. So what you're doing in sports, I applaud. And I think it's absolutely the case in all facets of news, including weather.
Thank you very much. And Dennis, definitely don't be a stranger here on the Sports Web. I mean, you know your sports. We could go back and forth all night long, talk hockey, talk baseball, talk football, anytime you want to. You're definitely welcome on the evolution of sports television.
Do me a favor. When we start getting into fantasy football, give me a heads up and we can talk, because I'll tell you, I've been the reigning champ for a few years in our league here. So I would love to do some fantasy football conversation too. That would be fun.
Absolutely. We can definitely do that. I got to get my fantasy football team going because I've been kind of slacking, but it's just been, wall-to-wall opt-outs and COVID lists. And now that kind of stuff is falling by the wayside. We're getting ready. We're only 29 days away until the Bucs, the Saints, and the Big Easy. It's just fun. Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Dennis, for your time on the evolution.
My pleasure. See you guys. Bye-bye.
There you go. Dennis Phillips right there. I tell you right now, that guy can be a sports broadcaster anytime. I mean, he knows his stuff. Love to have him back on there for fantasy football. What do you guys think? It is an interactive experience. People ask me all the time, what is this? Is it a radio show? Is it a TV show? It's both. It's the evolution of sports talk television. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Let's go out to the webheads here. Well, let's not. Let's go out to a webhead call. Let's go out to Matt Colson leading off the Sports Web. What's on your mind tonight, boss?
Man, I was watching your weatherman there. And I've been telling people since I was 8 years old that the Tampa Bay area was the safest port on the Gulf of Mexico for hurricane.
I believe it.
Nothing makes it.
Yeah, I believe it from what he talked about. And we've been fortunate here in the Tampa Bay area. We were really, really lucky with Hurricane Irma. That did hit land, but it hit land before Tampa Bay. It came in here as a 1 instead of a 4 or 5, which would have been devastating to this area.
Yeah, that was the one Dirk Cutter was the coach.
Yeah, that's correct. That was the year that the whole Hard Knock situation went down. I mean, it was just a complete disaster. The whole season was a complete disaster.
That year was like 2020, except a couple of years early. So,
right.
Yeah,
exactly, Matt. Exactly.
My dad told me a story in the mid-'60s that there was a hurricane out in the Gulf of Mexico, and it has a clockwise spin. It came in on a low tide, sucked all the water out of Tampa Bay. You could walk out all the way across Gandy Bridge up to your knees. Can you believe that? I don't know if that's true or not. He was a pretty good storyteller.
I can believe it. I believe your dad. I don't think your dad would be pulling your leg, although who knows? A lot of dads do that sometimes. They like to, in
excite things.
Yes, absolutely.
But I was going to ask you about he was talking about the named storms.
Yes.
I was just getting an update on my damn weather channel report about we're at K now or something like that. Number 11 for the year, and it's not even September.
Yeah.
You guys are going to be ducking and covering all year long.
Well, like I was telling him, it's been unseasonably hot. So look, when storms get out into the Gulf, and even if they do go through Cuba and those other places where the storm is going to face shear, if they get out into the Gulf of Mexico with those warm temperatures, then a hurricane can definitely strengthen. And the longer that forward speed slows down, then definitely those hurricanes can get up there. That's why you see some Cat 3s, Cat 4s, and Cat 5s, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's what happened with Katrina. It
right.
Went out there and stalled.
Correct. Because it hit Fort Lauderdale and Miami at first and was only a 1. And then it goes out to the Gulf of Mexico where those temperatures get up into over 90 degrees. And that's all you got to do. I mean, that's it. That's all storm has to do.
That was bad.
Yes.
But anyway, I was watching something else today. When are they going to be doing the live practice video feed?
August
Is that next
17th.
week?
So that is, I believe that starts on Monday. That is your
Monday.
first day of, yes. Your 14-day padded practices starts August 17th, and the Bucs will stream it. Now, my question is, and I guess my fear is, hopefully you don't stream too much, because I feel like the Saints will be looking at it. All your NFC rivals will be looking at it. So you don't want to give too much away. And I feel like the Bucs media staff and the Bucs coaching staff will be able to kind of censor a little bit of that, if you will. Give you a little taste, but not too much.
Remember last year they did that.
Right.
They had Scott Phillips or Scott whatever and Casey Phillips,
Correct.
whatever her name is.
Right.
They were at the end zone, and they would run up, and they'd have to run them off the field so they could do a set.
Sure.
And it wouldn't be on video. Bruce Arians was really particular about that.
Of course.
And then he had a bunch of stuff that they let him use as a backdrop to while they were talking. I watched a running back drill where they stacked up a bunch of I don't know, whatever they are, tackling dummies or something.
Sure.
And they were making them do the Walter Payton jump over the goal line kind of drill.
Yes. Goal line stand.
Rojo got over, cleared it.
Oh, yeah.
Barber couldn't. He couldn't make the jump, which was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But
wow.
I don't make the money he makes, and he out jumped me by probably 12 or 15 inches.
Probably jumped I'll jumped everybody. I mean, I think the furthest I've jumped here lately is out of my bed, and
there you go. That's it.
And with this the whole thing going on, and being quarantined sometimes. I mean, and even when it rains here, like the weather situation for me, if it's raining or something along those lines, I sleep through my alarm clock. So I've been jumping out of my bed a little bit too much lately. I got to stop doing that. I got to get up earlier, but I know how you feel.
You're a true Floridian, because I did the same thing here. They'll have these middle of the night damn near tornadoes that come through.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine living where you live, because I've never experienced a tornado, but you definitely got a great opportunity to get an F3, F4, and F5, and we all know how strong a tornado can be in Oklahoma City. Absolutely.
I'll tell you, the most incredible thing I ever watched in my entire life was like the third year I was living up here in Oklahoma, and they had a tornado pop up, which would have been, if you look at it from Tampa, St. Pete, I'd be in St. Petersburg, and this tornado came on the other side at Tampa Bay and was coming up towards St. Petersburg, if you get the idea.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
It was running from this town called Moore, and Moore is just south of Oklahoma City.
Right.
And they put it on the air, and usually they'll show the tornado come down, and then it does a little wig and blows up a barn or something, and it goes away, and you're like, oh, that's terrible. What a bad afternoon for that guy. No, this went on for 30 minutes. It came down right past the casino on Interstate I-35.
Sure.
In the back of this casino, it went through all these subdivisions, all the way across the town, until it got over to this big body of water that's on the other side of Moore,
right,
which is about 15 miles by how the crow flies.
Right.
And it went into a water spout, and then it cooled off and stopped.
Yep.
That flattened that town.
Yeah.
I mean, just flattened it.
No joke. I mean, it's no joke. Look, a lot of people say, tornado watch, and I know a little bit about weather, so I'm not trying to flex here, but tornado watch is when tornadic activity is certainly possible in the area. When there's a tornado warning, it means on radar it's about 5 or 10 miles away, so take cover. So
yeah, it's serious.
That's serious, and it's serious where you're at. So I cannot imagine living where you live just because of that factor, because I've had my fair share of and it's involved sports. I remember to the day, October 3rd, 1993, there were like over 20 tornadoes that touched down that day. Consequently, that same day, Florida State played Miami, and I believe they lost to Miami. So, yeah, I definitely remember some of that stuff. But
I'll tell you one story, and then I'll get off the phone.
Yes.
I used to work for a pharmacy company that was basically a warehouse of medications, and they went to all the nursing homes around from Manatee County, St. Pete, Clearwater, and around Tampa. And we did this delivery route like a UPS guy. And at the time, my route ended over in St. Petersburg, and I had to cross the Skyway Bridge and go over to into Bradenton and go to the Manatee Hospital that was right there.
Sure.
So you know, on the Skyway Bridge, it's got those high wind warning signs, and they pop on, and you're not supposed to get back on the road until it clears off again.
Right.
Well, I paid my little token, and I went underneath that bridge or underneath that warning light, and as soon as I got underneath it, it said stop, high wind.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy crap, what?
Yeah.
You can't turn around. So I figured, all right, well, it's no big deal. Well, it was a big deal. A damn water spout popped up half a mile off of the edge of the bridge, and I'm getting hit in a Chevy Astro van, panel van.
Yeah.
I'm getting hit in the windshield with kelp, with fish, with crap out of the ocean.
Right.
And it's beating the van. And it went from the outside lane to the inside lane. It pushed me all the way in. I had no control. It was like, you know, one of those come to Jesus moments.
Yeah.
And it scared me to death. When I got off to the other side of the bridge, I stopped for 5 minutes to smoke a cigarette, and then I went to that hospital, and the nurses wouldn't let me leave. They made me take a Valium and made me sit there because they could tell by my physical reaction that I was in shock.
Yeah.
And so the next day, my boss was like, what happened with you at that hospital last night? And I tried to tell him I got hit by a water spout. He thought it was a joke. Well, that van's used in the daytime by a regular day driver, and the day driver calls in about an hour after he yelled at me and said that the van was overheating. When they took it to the mechanic, that whole radiator was just full of seaweed. It was like a tossed salad was inside the damn thing.
Wow.
And then they believed me, and from that date on, nobody had to cross the Skyway Bridge anymore. They changed the routes around so that wasn't on the direction. But if you ever want to be scared to death, that's one way to do it, because when you know how high the Skyway Bridge is,
sure,
when you're getting hit in the windshield by fish the size of your arm,
oh yeah,
something ain't right.
No, something definitely is not right. Absolutely, it's not right. I've seen that type of stuff. I haven't experienced a tornado, but I've been very, very close. It's one of those things I'd never want to experience ever. Thanks a lot, Matt, for the call. Appreciate you. All right.
Yeah, I'll call and talk sports later.
Hey, it's okay. You can talk whatever you want to here on the Sports Web. Thanks a lot, buddy. I appreciate you.
Have a good night, Peter.
All right, let's go out to the web heads here. I know there's a lot of weather talk, but it kind of works, right? Weather and sports. We're kind of looking at this situation, the hurricane situation, knock on wood. There's nothing. Let's see what they have to say. Eric says, hi, Bucs report. Let's go, Bucs. Bring your passion. Absolutely. Fire those cannons. Well, ask and you shall receive. Here we go. All right, there we go. Brady threw his first interception in practice. Let it be his last, says Yash. Fire the cannons. I already did. Only do that once an hour. I'll tell you what, I'll do it for you again. All right, Christopher Cole says, hey, what's up, guys? Let's go. Bucs, best virtual edits video. Bring big board on. Dennis Phillips, the weather dude. Johnny Dean sharing the YouTube. Hi, Dennis Phillips. It's Corey. DPL, always welcome watching the Bucs report. Thanks a lot, Corey Brown. Used to be the Troll King on here, but hasn't been tuning in very much lately. Guess he's been working. It is 2023, so absolutely the deck bar and grill at Isa del Sol. Eric, I'm from DC area too, but lived in Tampa for 5 years, so I love the Caps first and Bolts second. I'm with you, Dennis. Eric also says, Obi no longer the Dan Marino of hockey. So happy for him. I'm happy for him too. Tremendous player and definitely most likely will be a Hall of Famer when all said and done. Been to a lot of Caps games, but been to more Bolts games just because of the $25 student tickets. The Tampa Bay Lightning do a tremendous job. I love Jeff Vinik. I love everything they stand for. It's all about fans, fan excitement, fan experience, and that's why the Tampa Bay Lightning continue to thrive in the Bay Area with sellouts and constant success and winning. I got to have Dennis on more often. He's the man. Absolutely. Here we go with that Super Bowl or bust stuff again. Shaking my head. In 48 years watching NFL, I do not remember any team with that mantra ever actually winning a Super Bowl. That is a fair point. So maybe I should stop saying it. Best virtual edits video is laughing. I mean, wasn't there a Bucs game rescheduled because of a hurricane a few years ago? Yes, there was. Did that not affect the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the time? Absolutely, it did. Having no bye week and then making up the game in Miami, even though They win that game. Let's see. Taylor Allen says, Peter, thanks a lot for tuning in. You should see the looks you get when you fire the cannons in Atlanta at our invasion watch parties. Laugh out loud. I love it. And mycannabiscard.com. We're going to have Rick Hughes on in just a little bit here. In fact, we can get him on right now, but open phone lines if you guys want to talk about your weather situations involving sports. It doesn't have to involve sports. I'll just tell you that day when I was watching the Hurricanes and Florida State Seminoles right down the street from my dad's house in Madeira Beach, there was a tornado or a water spout that came on shore. So it was definitely a scary experience. And then the next day, I believe I went to the Colts and Bucs game. Don't know how I remember all this stuff, but you always remember the good times and even some of those times that are crazy. As we spoke about at the beginning of the show, Tom Brady did throw his first interception to Mike Edwards. But Peter King had some good things to say about Tom Brady. Here was his scouting report. One of the things about late last season is that Tom Brady's arm was just not great. In the practice after an offseason of really working to strengthen his arm, he looked very, very good. He threw very hard. He threw fastballs to Rob Gronkowski, his tight ends. I thought he looked really good and crisp throwing the ball. He also goes on to say that, you know, he looks good. He looks sharp, and he has the opportunity to really excel in this offense. And I think there's a lot of people out there that feel like he's going to excel in this offense. Tell you what, let's go out to Rick Hughes because he's ready to go. I'm ready to have him. I don't want him to wait all night there in the lobby. Let's get him on. Rick Hughes, welcome to the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. We just had Dennis Phillips on, the meteorologist of ABC Action News. So now you've got to give me a weather situation, a tornado or a hurricane or something that scared the bejesus out of you involving sports or not involving sports.
Well, I've got one where I was in. Well, first of all, let me say this: when I was in high school, originally, I had thought one of my dream jobs was I wanted to work for the National Hurricane Center in Miami. I wanted to be a meteorologist. Now that lasted about 10 minutes because I found out how much math you needed at the time, and that wasn't going to happen. But talk about scaring the bejesus out of you. Yes. I was on an airplane at O'Hare Airport getting ready to fly back to Orlando, and off in the distance, it looked like there was some dust or something. You couldn't tell there was smoke or something way down at the other end of the runways. It didn't look like that big of a deal. So we're still taxiing out, and all of a sudden I see all these flashing lights, these emergency vehicles heading in that direction. Well, now you're thinking, oh, wow, there's smoke and all these emergency vehicles. Hope nothing bad happened to a plane. Maybe 30 seconds later, you see all the emergency vehicles screaming back in the opposite direction with the lights on and everything. So, you're looking out there wondering what the heck is going on, and you realize that smoke is getting closer and closer, and there's this wall. It looks like it's about 30 feet high of just dust. Mm-hmm. It's starting to look like something you see in a movie. Where just 30 feet high, there's this wall of dust moving closer and closer, moving right down the runway toward the plane we were in. And all of a sudden, you see all the other planes start turning towards this wall of dust. And our pilot, the engine starts screaming, and he's starting to try to turn. And this wall gets closer, 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 and slams the side of the plane. And now the wind and everything was cutting across the plane so hard that this big jet, this big airliner, Delta airliner, is all you're hearing is bam, very loud, over repeatedly, bam, over and over, as the wind was blowing across so fast that the engines couldn't suck any air in, and they were backfiring. We had gotten hit by a tornado while we were sitting there on the tarmac. Now, I never saw a funnel cloud, but you could see the wall of dust around the bottom. You actually couldn't see a funnel cloud, but they said they shut down the airport and everything, and we sat there for like 3 hours just waiting while the airport got put back together, and then we could take off. And the funniest part of all of it is they didn't even change our plane. So we're sitting there, and I remember I was in the very, very back seat, couldn't recline or anything, just sitting there thinking, shouldn't we check this out or something? I mean, this is kind of weird, but yeah, we made it back, obviously. Okay, so
Yeah, obviously you made it okay. Looking at these Peter King comments, he basically says in so many words, a lot of people thought that Brady's arm has deteriorated because of the numbers last year. He also said something is interesting. I kind of left it out. I wanted to read this. He says King also said he's moving around a little bit in the pocket. So it's almost like he's saying that Bruce Arians is expecting Tom Brady to move around in the pocket. I mean, do you feel like King is kind of looking too much into this with Brady being mobile in the pocket? He's really not going to be that mobile.
No. I mean, I think what they're doing, let him move a little bit, but that's not Tom Brady.
Right.
I mean, they're not. Tom Brady is not going to be Lamar Jackson. That's just not going to happen. Move a little bit, maybe. Move a little. Maybe that's something Tom Brady wanted to do. Maybe that's something he's trying to bring here and say, I've been wanting to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Yeah, but if you listen to Peter King, he was like, Tom Brady looks like a whole different animal now. He really looks rejuvenated. And that's the thing I think that you're seeing. Tom Brady seems excited to play football again. He seems motivated. He has something to prove. Is what he's got to. Tom Brady is a creature of habit. Like he needs a chip on his shoulder to really, really perform, and he's got one. He's had to manufacture it, and a lot of times athletes do that. You play mind games with yourself. You do different things to get yourself motivated, get yourself focused, get yourself really ready to go. And switching teams, changing challenges, having a new challenge, having something new. That's, I think, why he's here. Everybody's talking so much about, was it Belichick? Was it this? Was it that? I think Tom Brady just needed something to give him that fire and passion back. And it sure seems like he's got it. You watch him practice, and yeah, he's jumping all over the place. He's throwing the ball. Although, again, I'll tell you, I brought it up a few nights ago here. Did you see how many passes you see him practicing throwing to the backfield and the tight ends? Mm-hmm. I think we're going to see a lot of that. You didn't see that with Jameis in practices. So I think everybody thinks this offense is going to be the crazy, no risk it, no biscuit, wild offense. I think you're going to see a blend of the two. It's basically now Brady can throw downfield more because he has the targets, he has the ability to read defenses and make good decisions. So that's going to change a whole lot. By the way, did you see John Gruden talking about Marcus Mariota?
Well, look, anytime you see John Gruden talking about a quarterback, I'm not believing him because and this guy wants 4 to 5 quarterbacks. If he has the prettiest girlfriend in the bar, he wants the other prettiest girlfriend in the bar. He's never satisfied. So when he's talking about Marcus Mariota, I just don't believe anything he's saying. But what did he have to say besides the fact he loves him, like he said every player when he was on Monday Night Football as an analyst?
Well, he did, but he's not saying that about Derek Carr. That's the point that he doesn't say it about every player. He, as a matter of fact, he didn't even say it about Brad Johnson when he had Brad Johnson.
No, he didn't.
So I don't think he's always in love with whoever the backup is or whatever. Yeah, he always wants the prettier girl. Who doesn't? Okay,
but have a pretty girl. Do you?
Oh no, if you have a pretty girl,
right?
Now the question is, really, how pretty is that girl that John Gruden has right now? I mean, I think Derek Carr's a good quarterback. I really think he's a good quarterback. I think he needs to be in the right location with the right team, with somebody who's going to believe in him, get behind him. I think he's perfectly capable of being a very good quarterback. I don't think John Gruden. I don't think that's a good match. I really don't. I don't know what to think about Mariota. I don't know I don't believe half the stuff, anything that comes out of any Gruden's mouth.
Right. So
exactly. It doesn't have John, Jay, it doesn't matter. They're all just, they're all just yapping and whatever.
What Jay was talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we're on with Rick Hughes from the Chief Seats. I'll tell you what, let's hold that thought. We'll get back to Jay Gruden. Let's go out to Johnny Dean, the professor. Welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. You're on with yours truly, along with Rick Hughes from the Cheap Seats on your Pro Football edition of the Sports Web. What's on your mind?
This call-in is brought to you by CannabisCard.com.
Thank you very much. Did you like that ad? We got to get a commercial. We'll get we'll get that all taken care of for those guys, but they're really taking care of us here on the Sports Web, so we will take care of them.
Yeah, I was wondering. I know. I think I've asked this question in our chats and stuff, but
Sure.
Has anybody really thought about how the one thing I got from the Hard Knocks show
Mm-hmm.
is how the cuts are being affected this year, and it's pretty much basically a numbers game. We got this many people here, and here.
Right.
So, has anybody noticed that? And,
Isn't that always the case?
I mean,
well, sometimes the lower level people can get beat out, but now it's going to be whoever's in the system already. I like to say the tight end. What's his name? Christ, Alex Fleming can tell me who he is.
For
Higbee.
For
Tanner Hudson. Okay, go ahead.
Tanner Hudson.
For the Bucs.
So say you got somebody like Tanner Hudson up there,
Mm-hmm.
who is kind of a fan favorite. He's one of my favorites,
Okay.
but he's still a lower tier tight end right at the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in a normal season, somebody who was more talented, more, that they'd really done tape on and stuff, and their college performance, and they're really high on him, could come out there and in practice actually beat him out. Now you really don't have that option. So, especially with the roster being cut down.
Do you think that's the reason why a lot of people have not tuned in to Hard Knocks? Because they had some of their lowest ratings, and now HBO is actually giving people the opportunity to watch the first episode. They only had 270,000 viewers, and I get it, Major League Baseball and the NBA is going on right now, but usually Hard Knocks is a must-see TV. For me, I missed it because I had to do the show, but I would usually watch the replay. But I don't know why I don't have any interest in it this year. I think it's because of the Rams and the Chargers. I don't know.
There's nothing about those two teams that makes me want to watch.
Yeah, I think that's what it's about. I mean, honestly, you had the Raiders and you had Antonio Brown, who is a complete train wreck, but people like train wrecks. So
what are you going to tune in to see Tyrod Taylor?
Right, exactly. Thank you, Tyrod Taylor. Go ahead.
I'm going to get this in there one day. You got to think about what was happening the night Hard Knocks premiered.
Sure.
That was the 5 overtime hockey game.
Well, that's true. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, but how many people outside of Columbus and Tampa, there aren't that many people who cared that much. If you were going to watch, if you're a football person, you're not going to, you might keep, sort of a cursory glance over now and then to watch hockey. But if you're not a hockey person, that's not going to keep you from watching.
What now?
Everybody's in hockey into hockey right at the moment. In all of my NFL groups and all my sports groups, that's all that was being talked about that night was that 5 overtime game.
Yeah. Johnny, do you think the NFL dropped the ball? Rick, you can comment on this, dropping the ball and getting a Rams and Chargers, because like I said, they're very uninteresting teams. I get it. Joey Bosa just got a contract extension, but really, what players? I mean, the Rams, to me, they got a nice young coach, but what personalities? Aaron Donald. I mean, what draws you to the Rams and the Chargers?
They're really trying to make those teams successful because of how much they paid to become a part of the league. They're giving them free PR, not because they paid so much just to. I mean, this is not a franchise in essence that, I mean, there was a lot of money exchanged to move to LA. There was a lot that happened. So I think I think this is in essence payback to marketing. It's all marketing for the glamour and glitz of LA. And I just think people are like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, they're like, whatever. And to me, what would have been interesting, guys, is if you did New England and Tampa Bay. And I know what you're saying, it's distractions.
Wow.
Williams, a wide receiver of the Raiders, talked about how much it was a distraction last year. But can you think of it? If you did a series with the Patriots losing Brady, the Bucs gaining Brady, and the cause and effect of how it would affect both of those teams, now that is must-watch TV.
Yeah, those teams would have to agree to it.
Right.
I mean, you've got to find two teams that are willing to agree to it, that are there's all the criteria for whether or not you're exempt from being chosen, whether if you've been on the show before, whether you have a new coach, whether there's all kinds of different criteria that gets into the mix. And I I just really think this is just pure marketing.
Yeah. Well, not very good marketing because once again, they're kind of boring teams. Johnny Dean, what do you think? Cause and effect, New England and Tampa Bay.
I actually enjoyed that Hard Knocks episode more than I've enjoyed any of the others.
Really?
I got to see what I wanted to see.
I'm going to tell you right now, the John Gruden episodes last year made me laugh. I had to watch them over and over again. Still got them in the DVR because when this guy curses and says something, and then he has a funny moment when he's on the sideline. He's like, man, I just got to stop cursing. I'm like, why? Just being John Gruden. Just keep on. We love you the way you are. Just keep on cursing, saying F words, dropping F bombs, doing this, doing that. I mean, that's what makes the show go. Just have the Raiders have Hard Knocks forever. It's dysfunctional. They have a history of dysfunction, picking up players that nobody wants. John Gruden there can keep him there for 10, 20 years, whether he wins or not, as long as he drops F-bombs and curses out players and does this and does that. I'm all good for it.
Well, and let me point something out. There's just an observation. Like, for instance, my show coming up, I'm calling it the cheap seats.
Right.
I'm not calling it the luxury box. And Sean McVay and everything about Sean McVay and all of that reeks of everything you'd see in a luxury box.
Sure. I mean, he's a cool cat. He's got his stuff together. You know, he's all well, and he's not going to be cursing. He's not going to be dropping F-bombs. And honestly, do we really think the Rams and Chargers, and I got a bet out there, so I'm kind of biased to this, that Tyrod Taylor.
Wait a minute. Did you actually say Sean McVay's not going to be dropping F? You didn't watch the show, did you, Peter?
I didn't get a chance to watch it. Did he drop F-bombs?
Oh, man, Sean McVay is a clone of John Gruden.
Well, they are, of course, you know that, Johnny, you know that McVay worked with Gruden at one time for the Bucs.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
But there's such a different vibe that comes from him. Let me sit back in my LA slippers and put my feet up on my coffee table with the beautiful view out back while I draft versus dirty, gritty, get your hands dirty. He's busy sipping a glass of white wine while he's drafting players.
Right.
I mean, that's the vibe you get from him. That's not the vibe you get from John Gruden.
Yeah, that's not the vibe. I get
what I was talking about is the speech patterns, the things he says. He's hilarious.
He's hilarious. Okay, I'm gonna tune in because I love Hard Knocks. I didn't get a chance to watch it, so I'm gonna tune in. But I'm just trying to find a reason because everybody loves the NFL, and to me, anybody says it's oversaturated, BS. It is not. Bullspit. It is not oversaturated. To me, it's just not very entertaining teams. Or like you said, Johnny, it could be the NHL and NBA. What else, Johnny?
That's it. I'm just waiting.
Hold on, Johnny.
All has been brought.
Go ahead.
Hold on, Johnny. I wanted to. You brought up something earlier in this call that I wanted to talk about. You talked about how younger players not getting a chance to catch on with a team because of everything going on. You're right. Inexperienced players right now are not as valuable as experienced players. If you have experience, you're a more precious commodity because of the lack of preseason, because of the shortened camp, because of all of that. So what I also think is a really, really big deal if people think about this. Let's say you're a college player who doesn't get to play this year. You're not yet. This was your senior year. You were going to get exposure this year. Now you don't get that shot. Now some new hot shots coming in behind you. Maybe you get to play next year. Maybe you won't. All of a sudden there's twice as many people fighting for the same number of positions because now you've got that extra year of eligibility. But if you think about it, you've got a whole nother group of people that are a little bit older. So you're competing with more people. I think entire careers, entire lives are going to change because of what's happening right now with college football, with the fact that they're
football. That's the world, dude. Everything's changing. You have to go. There's some things just can't stay static, dude.
No, I understand, but we're talking football here. So, I mean, yes, I'm sure that there are snowplow operators who are being impacted, but this is Bucs Report. I mean,
Go ahead, Johnny.
I can't hear nothing.
Okay, well, it just seems to me that the bottom line, it just seems to me that there are players whose entire lives, entire careers, everything, they're not going to get the shot to show in front of scouts and everything that they were going to have. Entire lives are changing because of this. It's not anybody's fault. this is because of the virus, and it is what it is. But you have to understand the human element to this. It's not just, oh yeah, we're not going to get to watch college football. This is radically impacting lives.
Okay, as far as college football goes, the teams that are canceling have said that they're going to reset. And all right, everything falls downhill. So, but in a reset, if there is somebody that comes in and beats out a senior, then as far as that goes, I think it's cleaning the herd. You know,
They're not saying let's get this guy in now.
Opted out. Now, if they opt out to go to pros, I don't think they have that eligibility still, but they're going to keep the eligibility if they're with a team that has canceled the season. It's college football is a mess, dude. I'm sorry. Yeah. Peter, you guys both have heard my views on what they should do.
Yeah,
they should separate the student athletes from the students. Period. And then you could have them bubbled up, and you wouldn't have to worry about cross contamination and stuff. But they don't see it that way. They don't. And for one thing, there's not enough teachers, I guess, to go around.
I also think they're concerned about the fans. I mean, college football has to have the fans. I think that's a huge part of this.
Alabama would be Bama Football League. It would still be the same thing. They would just have different curriculums and different. It would even be at the same areas. It's just not feasible to keep cross contaminating and using the students' rule book for the college players. You can't do that. And
yeah, I mean that's a difficult thing. And even TJ Pittenger talked about this last night from the Big Three roll up. I mean, what do you do about the pay situation? How do you pay these players? How do you pay guys that are superstars? And how do you pay bench warmers? And then also you pay them the same fee as a lacrosse player. I don't know how they work that out. And I feel like college football eventually will get it worked out, but it's going to take a while. How long did it take college football to figure out a playoff system? How long did it take them to?
They're never going to figure it out until they're forced to figure it out.
Right.
In the first place.
Right.
That don't happen.
Right. So
Like
it kind of goes back to what Chris Landry said, right? The reason why you may not be having a college football season is because there's presidents out there of these universities who don't want to go forward into into the next 5 to 10 years with paying college athletes. So the way you stall this movement out is not have a season.
Well, like you said, though, Peter, this is where somebody like Trevor Lawrence shows his wares,
right?
He's showing his leadership. He's proving his worth to all of the other college athletes, and by getting people organized.
Decided to stay in school.
Yeah. So
he could have come out last year and competed with the guy that went to Cincinnati. I can't
Joe
remember.
Burrow. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think he's ranked up there. I think he's probably better than Burrow, and he's better than Tua. So
yeah, I agree 100%. I'm pretty sure he is better than either one, but I'm not a college.
Could he come out last year?
Quarterback student.
No, he couldn't come out. Could he come out last year? I don't believe he could. Could he have?
He could have came out with Burrow. Absolutely.
Okay, he could have came out.
Okay.
So
he was already ranked in the top 5 quarterbacks in college at that time.
No, but did he have enough years? You can't just go in one and done.
Oh,
I don't think
how much actual experience did Burrow have? I mean, it's not a one and done system. You can't look at it that way. Most college athletes, by the time they're in their senior year, have already got 15 years of football in them. Okay,
mm-hmm.
that experience is there. Experience in a different system. That's just the changing of verbiage and adding more play to the playbook.
I'm not saying is he physically or mentally capable. I'm saying there are rules and there are regulations. The NFL's worked something out where you have to. I don't know what. To be honest with you, I don't know whether Trevor Lawrence was a junior. I don't know what he was last year.
I think it was a sophomore actually.
Right. So I don't think you can be drafted as a sophomore.
Yeah, that's what it says here.
Eligibility wise,
right.
I could have swore he was a junior.
No, I don't think he was able to come out.
No, he was a sophomore last year, so now he's a junior.
All right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
he's a big boy physically.
He's got all the physical qualities you want for a quarterback. He doesn't look like a sophomore. He doesn't look like a junior quarterback. He looks like a man. He's a man among boys, and his resume speaks for itself.
Yeah,
Winning that national championship with Clemson and doing everything he's done, but to come out and be a leader in this time of crisis shows me what you want to know with the franchise quarterback. Give me a franchise quarterback that can win games, but also give me a quarterback that can face adverse situations when the chips are down. Because here's what we know, guys. When a quarterback gets drafted number one, they're going to a pathetic team. So you're going to have a bad offensive line. Is this guy going to quit on me? From his statements the other day with his whole body of work, I don't feel like he's going to. In fact, I think he's going to galvanize the team and lead him to eventually a playoff appearance, or at least be competitive his first year, and then eventually get them to the promised land. That's what you want to kind of look at. You want to look at the same kind of characteristics as a Patrick Mahomes, right? Young guy, can get it done, has all the physical traits, but that leadership quality is something you can't put a price on. Or in this case with Mahomes, you can with $503 million.
So you just hit on exactly why it's so hard to judge a quarterback's value, because Patrick Mahomes wasn't looked at like that.
No.
Nobody saw Patrick Mahomes being what Patrick Mahomes is.
Well, the Chiefs did. Obviously, Andy Reid and the Chiefs.
That's exactly right.
Or the scouts, Andy Reid scouts.
Right. Correct.
What he was capable of. But I don't even think Andy Reid knew exactly what he had on his hands.
Well, look, they had to know something, because he had 92 touchdowns coming out of college. He was successful. People say, well, maybe he's a product of the offense. Yeah, you can't run this offense in the NFL. That's bull spit too, because you can run it. You can run all kinds of variations of it. And at the end of the day, the Chiefs knew, because remember, they traded Alex Smith, who wasn't no slouch in Andy Reid's offense. He was very productive. They traded him to Washington, which kind of shocked everybody. And they said, well, obviously they thought they had something in Patrick Mahomes. So when people say, well, they didn't know what they had. Oh, they knew what they had.
Well,
they thought it was going to be earlier, and they were absolutely correct on that when he threw for 50 touchdowns in his first year.
The thing is, we see coaches do that across the league every year. They always are reaching for a quarterback.
But it's happening.
There's others that not.
Johnny, it's happening earlier in the NFL, and I want to know why. Is it because these quarterbacks are coached better? Well, hold on. Is it because these quarterbacks are coached better in college now, or is it because the NFL the last 10 to 15 years has changed the way they're thinking? They're running these spread offenses that are working to these talents of these kids coming out of college. Basically, are they simplifying their playbooks? Are they scaling it down? John Gruden, he has all this crazy terminology which didn't work with Chris Sims at all. I mean, you can watch the video on YouTube. Funniest stuff you'll ever see. I don't know if a college kid could come out and learn John Gruden's offense, which is why he's not able to develop or have the patience to develop a young quarterback. That's why he always wants a veteran. But offenses like a Sean McVay, the coach for Arizona, who I don't know why I always forget his name, he did a good job with Kyler Murray running his offense. Why do quarterbacks have more success now than they have before? I feel like it's either they're being coached up better in college, or the NFL is starting to adapt and overcome a Marine Corps term to some of these young quarterbacks and really realize the evolution of the quarterbacks in the NFL right now.
Well, it's an emulation league, and they do adapt. Every year there's adaptation in the NFL. So I believe that is a lot of it right there.
Yeah.
College coaches are getting younger, so they're bringing that a younger attitude toward it also, and that's part of it.
Yeah.
So I think you're right on both parts of that right there.
Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know why I keep on forgetting him, but how do you know Cliff Kingsbury? Because Cliff Kingsbury coached Patrick Mahomes. And the next guy, if an NFL team is smart, NFL teams, you need to call that coach in Oklahoma. He's done a pretty good job with some of his quarterbacks in not a Patrick Mahomes, a Baker Mayfield and a Kyler Murray and of course the quarterback Jalen Hurts that just got drafted from the Eagles. He's done a very good job. So you feel like he'll get the next coaching call. And that's where the NFL has to go. They have to get younger with their coaching candidates. I love John Gruden, but you've got to simplify your offense. And if the terminology is not working for a young quarterback, he's not going to get the offense. That's why I feel like quarterbacks now have been more successful, and you've been able to basically call on them earlier. You look at the situation with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, right? Rodgers had to sit behind Favre for 3 years until he learned that offense and until Favre was ready to step back. You don't have that situation anymore. You draft a quarterback like a Joe Burrow or Tua, they're going in there to start. Whether they fail, whether they do well, it doesn't matter. That's the way NFL teams are looking at and cause and effect. Sometimes it can damage the quarterback. Other times it can make them stronger. And I feel like with a kid with Lawrence's ability and his leadership qualities, I'm not really worried throwing him into the fire.
I think there are 3 reasons that the young quarterbacks are finding more success. Number one, offenses have changed. I don't know if it's that they're simplified. I think it's just that they're different. They're more college style. Everything, or colleges and pros are not that different anymore. That used to be the case. There used to be just a huge gap. The rules have changed to make it easier on quarterbacks and easier on the passing game. And the third reason, I believe, is economics. I think part of the reason that they made it easier to be a quarterback is so that you have more quarterbacks able to do the job. So what's the next step in that process? You pay them less. You can pay them less in the long run. I think that happens. Now, I understand when you look at Mahomes just signing for $500 million, which is just hard to fathom.
It's hard to swallow. You just did it. It's hard to swallow, but it's good for him. I mean,
10 years. That is a 10-year. That is 10 years. Yeah. It is $50 million, and wait and see what happens because everything changes on scale. Let's wait and see how that works out in the long run. It looks like one thing now, but in the long run, wait and see whether that looks like that's a whole lot of money or whether it doesn't.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. But when you have the new TV contracts, as things change, as streaming rights, everything, the NFL keeps bringing in more and more and more money. The more quarterbacks you have, the better. So that's why I think they're doing it. I mean, Tom Brady signed with the Buccaneers for $25 million a year. I mean, that's
cheap.
Yeah, it's chicken. It really is. It's just silly.
It is. It's cheap because you look at other quarterbacks around the league. They start at $30 million. You get Tom Brady for 25. I get it. He's older, but he's more accomplished. So that's where the quarterback market is going at this point, Johnny. So you cannot afford to miss out on it. It can't be an Arizona Cardinals situation where you draft Josh Rosen 1 year and then Murray the next. It's not going to always work out like that. You invest so much time, so much effort into that quarterback, leading your team and being the franchise guy. And if he turns out he's not, it does put your franchise back 5 years. What else, Johnny Dean?
I only have one more thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
This call was brought to you by Bucs Report on YouTube, mycannabiscard.com, and Auction of Champions.
There you go. Auction of Champions. Thanks a lot, Johnny Dean. Appreciate you. Yes. All right. Good stuff. 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. It's the Sports Web Pro Football Edition. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with Rick Hughes from the Cheap Seats. Let's go out to the web eds here and read some of these comments. Dylan says, "Hey guys, Christopher Cole. I remember when we were out of power for a week after Hurricane Charlie, my mom would cook us breakfast outside on a fire with a pan. That's a memory I'll never forget." Good memory. Good stuff. Again, Auction of Champions was kind of boring to me, says Hard Knocks. Let's go out to Matt Colson. Welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. You're on the Sports Web. Yours truly, along with Mr. Rick Hughes from the Cheap Seats. What's on your mind, Matt?
I just wanted to mention that you guys were talking about the dynamic change of the college canceling the season and how it's going to affect people.
Absolutely.
You remember what Chris Landry said the other night? It costs $45,000 or something to test one time?
Something like that. It's just a crazy price, and I think that also falls into it. College football doesn't want to pay that much money, especially when they don't have fans.
Don't they usually, most of those big schools like Oklahoma and Nebraska and all those other ones, they usually have over 100 players.
Yes.
You look at their annual picture and the JV and the B together, they've taken up an entire wall of people. So that when he said that, it rang. It hit me in the head like a stone. I was like, oh my God, I had never considered that.
Yeah.
But there are schools that just can't afford it. And what Rick was talking about with these guys that are going to have to be fifth-year seniors when the recruiting classes were brought in based on we figure this guy's going to go all the way to his junior year, he'll go to his senior year, or maybe before he'll get out. Like the coaches know that when they go recruit people. That I look at this guy's going to be here for so many years, and then we got to replace him. So we're going to go after player B, and now it's going to cause an issue where if they don't get to play, how do they draft next year in the NFL? I mean, how are they going to be able to know who's any good?
I don't know. I mean, I think you go back to tape a couple years ago, and that's the risky thing. And look, if college football plays in the spring and you move the draft back, is that going to give you enough time to scout these prospects?
Well, yeah. I mean,
right.
You've got to be able to put the draft together.
Sure.
The guy's got to finish the year, right?
Right.
The guy playing for Nebraska's got to finish out his year.
Yeah.
And then he's got to come back, and he's going to be drafted like a day after they finish the championship games or whatever.
I'm guessing we're going to see some additional all-star games type of thing pop up, where like showcase games where you're going to be able to see these players show out maybe a little bit more. I think you might see some players, some additional, like, Nike will put a game together or things like that.
Under Armour, that.
Under Armour. That it'll give these college athletes a chance to show out. That's all I can think of. And we were talking about Brady making $25 million. What do you think would have happened if Brady had said initially to the Buccaneers, "I'll come for $35 million"? They'd have found that $35 million and paid him.
Yes, they would have found the $35 million and absolutely paid him, because that was the big time plan. We know now that if Tom Brady was out there, the Bucs were going to be in contention. That's what they were going for all along.
That's how bad this guy wants to win.
Yeah.
You leave that extra 10 on the table, you end up with paying Rob Gronkowski how much?
$10 million.
$10 million.
Yep.
I mean, it's Brady is smart, and he really wants to win.
Yeah. I mean, again, it goes back to the leadership quality of a franchise quarterback. You can't put a price on it, although you kind of can, but it's just one of those things that a franchise quarterback either has it or you don't. And at that juncture, are you characterized as a franchise quarterback if you don't have that leadership quality? I don't think you are. So,
well, and he also has the benefit of having a wife who makes as much or more than he does.
A lot more.
Sure. That definitely helps.
So yeah, he's not coming at it like the guy from Bessemer, Alabama, like Jameis was, he's making the family money. I mean,
right.
He's the guy.
Yeah, but look at the mistake and how Jameis played that.
Well, that's why he fired his agent. That's why he got rid of his agent in the first place. The whole thing was not played well. Who knows how that was supposed to be played?
But I think that's the changing economics of quarterbacks, and I think that's a great example of what we were just talking about with a glut of quarterbacks. People like Cam, people like Jameis, who are not phenomenal, best ever kind of quarterbacks. Those guys are going to be less valuable as time goes by, because there's a new crop of guys coming in. There's always a new crop of guys coming in.
Yeah.
There's more quarterbacks that are coming out all the time. Next year, think of all the quarterbacks now, especially if not after this spring, but 1 year from then. If you have twice the crop of quarterbacks coming out because of delaying the eligibility by a year. I mean, that if you're drafting this year, that if you end up with a high pick this year, the first pick, second, third, that's gotta suck, because you're not getting the same experience, that the players with the same experience. You're drafting in a whole different arena than a normal year. And 2 years from now, the people drafting high are high on the hog, man. I mean, they've got twice the talent pool that they get to pick from.
Yeah, and it could be the year to draft a quarterback, because you look at some of the signal callers around the league. You have a Ben Roethlisberger who has a high cap number. You have a Matt Stafford who has a high cap number, even a Carson Wentz. I mean, there's some question. There's a lot of quarterbacks. A Drew Brees out there. You would assume that he's done with the Saints. So if you need a quarterback, unless you feel like you have one, this may be the year to draft it. To that point, you're exactly right. They're not necessarily going to be playing the season. But then again, you're not going to have to worry about an injury. They're going to be fresh. They may not be as experienced in getting all the reps, which, of course, you look back at Mitchell Trubisky. when he was coming out, only got 14 starts. That's a big deal. Ryan Tannehill, when he came out, predominantly he was playing wide receiver, didn't get a lot of starts at quarterback. So you see why now it's so important. So that would definitely, play into it if you're not getting those necessary reps, which is what we're talking around the NFL with these rookies trying to get, and they're not getting it. What is the cause and effect of that?
Yeah, those guys stayed in school for another year for a reason. Sure. And that whole reason isn't happening. So now you come out and you don't have that year. First of all, you wasted 1 year of professional eligibility for nothing. But then you do come out, you're not injured, but you're also no more experienced. You're also in no better situation than you would have been had you just said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and quit college football and sit around and eat Cheetos. I mean, it's basically the situation that they were in. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a whole weird couple of years of drafting that's coming up. And what's coming out of college and the way it's going to impact the NFL, the way it's going to impact college football, everything coming up is just going to be fascinating because this is a whole mix that I don't think anybody knows what's going on. It's like taking a glass and just shaking it up, and then the water's got to find its level. Yeah. I think that's what we've done here.
Yeah, it really is a situation you're going to have to watch. Bears watching. It's going to be very interesting. Once again, what are the effects of it on college athletes? What are the effects in the NFL? Everything else has changed in 2020. Hopefully it gets back to normal in 2021. But once again, you feel like there are going to be effects that are going to be felt here in the next couple of years. Anything else, Matt Colson?
No, I was just hitting on what Rick was talking about. This calendar loop that we're going to get into. It's going to stop, back up things that, I don't know. We have gotten so used to seeing the NBA draft, and seeing the NFL draft, and we know how things are going to go.
Yep.
And
we think we know, but we don't know. Yeah. No, I agree.
And now all of us as sports fans are sitting around the house going, what the hell? And then you're going to look at 6 months from now, and nothing's going to be right. It's going to be a real big mess. At least we'll have stuff to talk about.
Well, you're definitely going to have
a lot to talk about.
We have a lot of things to talk about here on the sports. Well, let me ask you this. Are you interested in Hard Knocks this year with the Chargers and the Rams? Why or why not?
Johnny Dean sent me a message the other day. He's like, have you been watching Hard Knocks? And to me, I didn't even realize it was out.
Right. I didn't either. I didn't even know it was out.
Yeah. All the precursors to it. You're not watching Bruce Arians every afternoon on the practice field. None of that stuff that's supposed to be in place has happened. So football isn't even there yet.
No.
We're not even doing college.
Preseason has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, it's preseason. You usually see workouts and press conferences, and it's none of that. It's all testing and
there's no games. There's no games for Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks, there used to be games involved in Hard Knocks. There's no games now. Everybody's sort of like, okay, football's starting in 4 weeks. That's the way the average guy. I mean, think about it. If Brady wasn't here in Tampa, if Brady, if you didn't have that, really, how interesting would this time of year be?
There'd be a lot of hacked off people about Jameis because he would have thrown more than one interception by now.
Oh, I would be talking to people like you, Matt, who have called this show over and over again and told me Jameis Winston is a terrible decision maker. I mean, that's the thing. Well, you were right.
I brought that up. I got myself in hot water with the dude. I'm not ever going to mention Jameis Winston in a foul way again.
Oh, well, hey.
I got your back, Matt.
We're all here. We're all here trying to have a good time, but it wasn't just you. It was all kinds of callers. So if they would have re-signed a Jameis Winston, I think we would have had controversial conversations every night about the Winston signing. Can he cut down on the turnovers? Can he excel? I mean, there would have been some conversation, but it would have been different. It would have been more negative. And then with everything that's going on right now with COVID, it would have been just a situation where basically I probably would have started losing my hair, or it would have continued to turn white and gray.
Last night you had that coon-ass guy. What's his name? Blake something or other.
Blake Ruffino. Yes.
Okay, and he's over here talking about, I don't know about if I should tell you this or not. I don't know what to tell you. But Jameis is looking good in practice. Well, we're talking about practice, not a game. We're talking about practice. And he never looked bad here in practice.
Well,
he was throwing 100-yard bombs down the field. He was doing everything perfect. And then the first game comes up after preseason, the first home game, It's like the first day he ever played in the NFL. 1 pass, 1 INT. That's what he does.
Well,
or the conversation was the first 2 series, he looked like a completely different quarterback, and it's almost like, what are we talking about here? Because it's freaking preseason. We say
that he's in shorts.
Freaking year. The same thing. Oh, he looks like a totally different quarterback. You know why? Because the defense is vanilla. The offense is vanilla. What the hell are we talking about?
They're not even in pads or anything. And let me also point something else about this. Sean Payton is a very good head coach, and he knows this. Like Blake was talking about how he's heard him really just go off and get on Drew Brees. Well, okay, that's maybe what Drew Brees needed to help him and his mental state at that point, and that's what you do with some players. And players who are coming from a bad position, whose confidence is shaken, what do? You say and do things to build their confidence, and that may be exactly what's happening with Peyton, maybe giving Jameis some easier routes, doing some different things to make sure that he finds a little bit of success to build that confidence back up, and then he goes out and he says positive things, just trying to build up Jameis. For that's what a good coach does. That's all part of the mind games and the ways that they coach players.
Yeah, and speaking of yelling at players, we're going to get to what Jenna Lane had yesterday, why Bruce Arians yelled at Tom Brady. That seems to be very interesting. Good stuff, Matt. Anything else, buddy?
No, I'm gonna let you guys go. I just have fun when Rick's on there and I get my thoughts together before I call. Sometimes I don't do that so well.
Well, that's okay. We'll get the thoughts together for you here, Matt. Well, do you like the idea of having the Patriots and the Buccaneers? Did the NFL drop the ball by not having a Hard Knocks? I mean, think about it. All the movement, all the COVID opt-outs by New England. You lose Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. You have that, and then you go to Tampa Bay. The NFL dropped the ball by not having Hard Knocks in both of those places. Agree or disagree?
No, Peter, here's the thing. There's 2 curses in NFL right now that are the honest truth. They're the truth. They do happen. The Madden curse and the Hard Knocks curse.
Well, wait a minute now. Now, wait a minute. The Madden curse didn't work this year because Lamar Jackson was on the cover and he was an MVP, was he not? Or was it Patrick Mahomes?
Mahomes.
I think it was Mahomes. He won the Super Bowl.
He got hurt, but he won the Super Bowl.
He blew his knee out, though, didn't he?
But he won the Super Bowl.
I don't care. He still had to sit out 3 games.
Oh,
you're gonna call that a curse? You're gonna call a curse? You get to sit out 3 games, make your money, and then come back and win the Super Bowl?
It led to $503 million contract. That's a curse. Please curse me.
Yeah.
I'm just saying he got hurt.
Oh, okay.
He got hurt.
Okay.
Gonna be a month.
So you're thinking Lamar Jackson, who's going to be on the cover this year, is going to get hurt. Is that what you're telling me? The MVP?
Yeah, because Michael Vick couldn't play without getting hurt.
Okay.
I wouldn't be shocked.
I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked by that. There's so much hype on the Baltimore Ravens. They've done everything correctly, a lot like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I would not be shocked if Lamar Jackson got hurt just because of the style of play. And because you have all the tendencies, once again, defensive coordinators are going to be going after him. Not that they weren't last year, but now there's some type of blueprint out there, right? What Tennessee did to them when they knocked him in the mouth. I feel like that's certainly a possibility. What's the other curse? Is it Hard Knocks?
Yeah, Hard Knocks. Nobody's ever come over, 9? Nobody's got 9-7 after Hard Knocks.
Nobody's ever gotten 9-7 after Hard Knocks. Is that true, Rick?
I have no idea.
I think that's true, actually.
I've only watched 1 year of it, and that was when the Bucs were on it.
Well, they weren't good. Yeah, they were terrible. They were a terrible team.
Let me point out, something kind of interesting that would have been good is, what if with Hard Knocks this year, what if they had just done a league-wide kind of Hard Knocks, where they just kind of, they're sort of behind the scenes with every team. I mean, you can mount these cameras in every coach's office. I mean, that costs them nothing. They could have done that and not even been there. I guess the editing time would have taken longer, but that's really not a problem for their budget.
The social distancing.
There's teams like Dallas who have the clout to say, we're not going to be part of that. And the NFL has to say, okay, Terry.
They do that a lot. They do that a lot with Skeletor. So
yeah, they do that with New England too. New England's got the caveat to say, I'm not going to do it. And they say, okay.
They've done it before, though.
It would have been so interesting to have both of those places and the effects on their fans and the front office to see that. It would have been such an interesting thing for the NFL to do. And to me, they drop, the Chargers, the Rams. I don't give a crap. The Rams, they lost Todd Gurley. They're a rebuilding team. They were in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, but they are a shell of themselves. And nobody is going to convince me, not in a million years on this show. That's why I put a bet out there with, I believe, Alex Fleming, that Tyrod Taylor is going to do anything but hold a clipboard for Justin Herbert and the Chargers. They're not making the playoffs. They're not interesting either.
I can't quite agree with you on that.
Wow.
I think Tyrod Taylor is better than you're thinking, but it doesn't mean I'm not trying to act like, oh my God, it's Tyrod Taylor. He's incredible.
Well,
But Brad Johnson won the Super Bowl in Tampa. I mean, really, was Brad Johnson an incredible quarterback? No, he was a good, solid quarterback, and I think that's what you have there. The difference is they don't have all the rest of the pieces or that defense.
Right. Well, they have a pretty good defense with Derwin James and both Ingram. I mean, they have there. Offensively, Keenan Allen, who thinks he's in the same breath as Mike Evans. I don't agree with that. Mike Williams. I mean, Austin Eckler. They do have some interesting players, but there's no personalities, no overwhelming. You're right, though. The Raiders, they were a complete disgrace because of Mr. Big Chest. But it was definitely definitely tune in TV for Hard Knocks.
Where are their personalities now in the league?
Call back, Peter. You said it was a train wreck, and that's what it was. We watched that to see what the hell is this crazy fool going to do next.
Oh, I watched. I love watching Gruden curse at the team and curse at his quarterbacks.
Knock on wood if you're with me.
Yep, knock on wood. There you go. Knock on wood. Yep.
Knock on wood if you're with me.
Knock on wood if you're with me. Yep, absolutely. Good stuff.
That one thing will stick with me for 10 years.
It will.
And I'll let you guys go on that.
All right, Matt.
Knock on wood if you're with me.
Knock on wood if you're with me. Thanks a lot, Matt from Oklahoma City, for calling the Sports Web. All right, there you go. Good stuff. Open phone line 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. We got Andrew Fulbert, the big boy. We're going to get him on with us here right now. So let's go out to him. Welcome, Big Board from Canada. How you doing? You enjoying the NHL playoffs up there in Canada, buddy?
Oh, of course I am, eh? Can you gentlemen hear me all right?
We can hear you just fine there, Big Board. You got a big board in the back. What's going on there, buddy?
Oh, North Sports Season 2 comes back at you tomorrow, baby. Just got my big board sitting here, right here. How you gentlemen been? How's the night going?
Night is going good. We started off with a weather conversation with Dennis Phillips of ABC Action News. We got Rick Hughes from the Cheap Seats. I don't know if you know who he is, but he definitely does a hell of a job. He's got a new show coming out here from the Cheap Seats on September 13th. We're not sure what time because we don't know how long that post-game edition is going to go, but we'll just have that as a floating time period. We'll just say that. But guys, thanks a lot once again for giving me your time here on the Sports Web. And let's talk about that situation with Coach Arians. This from Jenna Lane at ESPN. She says, or reports from what Arians said in his press conference, he's where he needs to be. We need to get more live reps, blocking and tackling. This game's a blocking and tackling game. 14 days to block and tackle. Is that enough? I hate tackling ourselves. We don't want to road block ourselves, but we've got to get ready to play a game. I think that's the biggest disadvantage to not being in pads and not playing preseason. Or I think that's what he said. Yeah, preseason or playing first. And then he also says that Tom Brady is not above getting cursed out. In fact, he gets cursed out because he tries to throw the ball in the walkthroughs. Your guys' thoughts?
I think it's funny. That's the biggest problem is that our quarterback's trying too hard. Oops. I think we can handle that. I think you can take a guy who's been to 9 Super Bowls, won 6 of them, and he's putting out the effort. Okay, yeah, yell at him, tell him. I believe I was speaking earlier today with Best of the Bay, Ray Kennedy. I think he said we ought to even talk about maybe putting him on a pitch count. I'm not sure that's a terrible idea, but we do need he's got to get as much experience in the offense as possible. But it's funny that even has to be a thought.
Andrew, big board.
Bruce Arians is still the head coach. Bring in the GOAT. Yes, totally understand. We got to let Tom Brady be Tom Brady and let his greatness be, around the rest of the players, and he's got to do what he's got to do. But Bruce Arians still makes the rules. If he says stop tossing the ball around, especially through walkthroughs, then don't toss the ball around. Bruce Arians is basically showing everybody else around that too. It's like, I'm still the head coach.
Yeah.
We didn't bring Tom Brady in here to be a head coach, but at the same time, we're still going to let him be who he is, but there is still limitations.
I think that's absolutely good observation.
Yeah, it really is. And I was just laughing about that because I just go back to the Peter King comments. He's just glowing about Brady, how he's throwing the ball. People around the league, they really think he's declining. He still has the arm strength. He's worked on that in the offseason. I think the funniest thing here, Big Board, is the fact that King says also that Brady's been moving around a little bit in the pocket. I mean, what is King trying to say? Is he going to be the next Lamar Jackson or Mahomes?
No. I mean, he's 43 years old. We all know, say, the limitations. I mean, if he threw for 5,000 yards this year, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised just because of the weapons in the system that's around him. But we have talked about what I do honestly think he's going to get. We think it's going to be anywhere between the 4,000 and 4,200 kind of yards, 35 to 38 touchdowns probably. Couple of those rushing in. He's done that before too. It's just the way that the system is, and he's not Lamar Jackson. He's not going to rush for 20 or 30 yards. I mean, I'm trying to think of anybody else after the age of 40 that's ever done that, and I think Warren Moon is the only one I can think of.
Well, you got Tom Brady. He didn't rush for any yards, but he definitely set some records, and that's where we'll get back to that in a moment because there were three things that somebody wrote on CBS Sportsline that they feel it's going to happen for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020. But I just thought that was interesting, and once again, going back to those comments of Bruce Arians, it really is going to be a challenge, boys. I mean, not only we talked about Hard Knocks not having those games, but just not having those game time situations. A lot of people say, well, you only need 2 preseason games, but you're not going to have any preseason games. So you kind of wonder, once again, what is the effect on that, not only on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but other teams around the league, Rick?
Well, the last couple of years, you've seen a lot of starters not play at all in preseason. So I'm not really sure what the impact is. The first couple of weeks are always weird. You always have strange teams beating strange teams. Everybody freaks out in week 1. I can tell you right now, God forbid Tampa loses week 1 or something like that. Everybody's going to lose their mind and say it was the biggest mistake ever that they brought in Tom Brady. Everybody's going to say he's too old. They're all going to flip out. Or the opposite side of that, if Tom Brady has a good game and they win, it's over. It's over. Super Bowl's already done. And I mean, that's what's going to happen. One of the things that you've talked about quite a bit, Peter, is you've talked about somebody who's going to have a turnaround season is O.J. Howard. And apparently when you hear what's coming out of camp, I guess Brady loves who he calls Juice. So
he's already got nicknames. Well, I mean, look, it's easy to equate OJ to Juice, but now he's already coming up with nicknames. So that's a great thing, right?
They're saying he kept calling out Juice, that apparently he referred to him a lot, threw to him a lot. Apparently Brady likes him. So you may be absolutely right about your prediction about OJ Howard. I'll be honest with you. I didn't see it coming. I had lost faith. But it looks maybe you're right.
Yeah, well, maybe Tom Brady has a new best friend there, Andrew Big Board, out of Canada. Now it's not going to be Gronkowski. It's going to be Juice and O.J. Howard.
I mean, probably. I made a joke to Joshua Cole Allen today at the Audible that Tom Brady's probably going to make an audible mid-game and just yell out Juice, and a couple of defenses are not going to understand it right away, and it's going to go straight 20-yard slant to OJ, and he's going to be gone. I mean, Tom Brady's getting used to all the weapons that he's got. And I'm not surprised that he's getting used to hanging out with OJ and being able to use OJ the way that he wants. So,
yeah, he's also talked about Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones has been talked about a lot of expectations for Jones being a top 5, top 10 running back. Got to ask you, Andrew, where do you think the sky's the limit on Ronald Jones? I say this, keep on saying it, a victim of volume. We have to get him more carries 20 to 25 a game, because when he gets to that second or that third level, he becomes very dynamic. You got to get him out in space.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think he's going to – he may get 1,000 yards, but I don't necessarily think he's going to be utilized as much as we think he is, only because we have Vaughn and we have McCoy and we have Akubuwambe and we have Logan. I mean, we still have a lot of running backs there on the depth chart, and Tom Brady likes to use his running backs. And now that we have a couple of good passing backs, we have a good returner. We got Ronald Jones, who will look to do everything, which is something that Sony Michel was supposed to do, but basically didn't. So I think Ronald Jones is going to have a great year, maybe more fantasy-wise than he would necessarily on the statistical side for what we like to talk about. But I still think he's going to contribute. I still think he's going to pull up a lot of touchdowns. I don't think he's going to be what Keith said on one of Ray Kennedy's shows a few weeks ago, where he's going to put up, say, like 12 touchdowns or 13 touchdowns. I think he's going to be more at 5 and 6, maybe 7 and 8 at the high mark, but he's still going to contribute. He's still going to be there. I mean, the guy is huge now. You look at some of those pictures coming out of camp, he is getting pretty big. So.
Interesting question about that. When was the last New England back to rush for 1,000 yards? I mean, did any do that last year?
I can't even think of one, to tell you the truth.
I can't remember the last one. Maybe
Corey Dillon?
No, used to be a Buccaneer.
LeGarrette Blount.
Yeah, he probably rushed for 1,000. But not rushing for 1,000 yards doesn't mean a whole lot in this sort of an offense, if it's anything resembling what Brady's used to doing. I think it's going to spread it around. You're going to have a lot of people catching a lot of passes, a lot of quick things, a lot of things happening that are different. And I think that benchmark of 1,000 yards, that's like, remember when throwing for 3,000 yards was the big deal?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now if you throw for 3,000, that's like the Mendoza line. I mean, you have to throw for 3,000 yards. And so I just don't think that it's I don't care if Ronald Jones rushes for 1,000 yards. I really don't. I don't care if he has a ton of touchdowns. I care if there's general productivity from the backfield. And victim of volume, I think you may be disappointed, Peter, only in the sense that this is a guy who utilizes a lot of different backs. Mm-hmm. So it may be the same sort of thing where I think Ronald Jones got really the raw end of the deal last year. And you're right, Peter, is that he was a victim of volume to someone who didn't deserve volume. I don't think Peyton Barber deserved the carries, and he got them. And now you had Ronald Jones, who just consistently played well, and they just wouldn't give him the time. So victim of volume last year, yes. This year, I don't know that the victim word fits. I think that there's going to be a lack of volume, maybe compared to what some, like a Saquon Barkley, he's gonna have volume. I don't think you're going to see that sort of an offense in Tampa.
Now, let me go back to you here, Andrew. How do you feel about LeSean McCoy signing with the Bucs? I don't know if I got your thoughts on that. What do you think he brings? And, of course, does he take away from that volume from a Jones and a Keyshawn Vaughn?
Yeah, so this goes back to when I was a fan. I don't think it's like the fourth or fifth time me and you talked on the phone, and I said if you could get Sproles at 29 or 31 years old, in between that age group, if you can get LeSean McCoy 2 years ago, or even technically right now, or a couple of players or old running backs like that type of caliber on this offense, we would be a little bit more scary than people would like to admit. Mm-hmm. And LeSean McCoy didn't show necessarily the flashes of greatness that we've seen in Philadelphia that we should have seen in Kansas City, but his productivity in Kansas City was there when it was needed. So I honestly think the Buccaneers are going to use Jones and Vaughn way more than we're going to use McCoy, but we're going to see McCoy in on some plays that we don't necessarily would agree with, but then when we see the outcome, we'll be like, oh, okay, I see why we picked this guy up.
All right, it's good stuff there. Open phone lines, guys. You can talk to all of us here. Have a question for Mr. Rick Hughes from the Cheap Seats or Andrew Fulbert, the big board from Canada, 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. Let's go out to the webheads here, read some of these comments, and get back to it. So, yes, no, Lawrence could not have come out last year. He was a sophomore. Cliff Kingsbury, Pete, absolutely fire the cannon. So here you go. All right, there you go. Tom Brady has been playing team-friendly contracts his whole career. Christopher Cole, $4,500 a day to test college athletes, and that's for each team. Seminole Buccaneer, I feel like Rick smoked before the show. Green Room says Seminole Buccaneer. I don't know what that's all about. Only reason I watch Hard Knocks this year is because they both have new uniforms, and that's it. By the way, the Rams, stop. You're trying to do too much. Rick, did you see these uniforms and how ugly and awful they are?
Okay, I like the Chargers uniforms much, much, much better. They're not I don't think the Rams are the worst in the league. I just don't. Now, want to know who's trying to do too much? Look at the Falcons with the jerseys that fade from one color to another. That's trying to do too much. Those red to black jerseys are just ugly.
Well, they're mean machine. That's what they are.
They're what?
They're mean machine. That's their longest yard uniforms. The mean machine.
Mean machine. Oh, terrible.
Mean machine.
Mean machine.
It's just terrible.
Yes.
I think the Rams, they're definitely not the worst. I mean, anything, by the way, anything. I'll take the alarm clock numbers back.
No.
Before I would ever want to be seen in a Cleveland Browns uniform of any type. Those are ugly uniforms. I mean, how do you change? It's not like you can rebrand when your team name is the Browns. I mean, what do you can put the poop emoji on the helmet. I mean, there's not much you can do.
Well, they played like that for the last 10 years, so it would definitely be something to look into. But with the Rams, and some people put this out on Google. You can go ahead and Google it. It looks like a male part. That's what they said, the Ram itself. Andrew, how do you feel about these uniforms with the Los Angeles Rams? Are they horrid or what?
So that Ram logo itself is horrible. There was the fan design that came out on Twitter like an hour after the Rams dropped it a couple of months ago, and it was 1,000 times better than what the Rams had done.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they haven't just still approached that person and been like, hey, how much does it cost? Can I use that? But the color, I actually don't mind just the general colors of, I believe it is the home jerseys with the blue and stuff like that. That weird color rush with the gray is not that bone or
the gray or
whatever. Yeah, I don't agree with that. The white, I mean, can't really go wrong with the white, but the blue is not the worst. I agree 1,000% as well with Rick on the Atlanta comment that those jerseys, when they came out, I was like, okay, what are they going to do? Are they going to top us? And then I saw that and I'm like, oh, well, thank you for just, getting everybody off your train and they're going to start hopping on ours. That's pretty awesome. Chargers, I love our jerseys, and I still think they're the second best jerseys that got released after this offseason, but the Chargers jerseys still are very, very nice. I will give them that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Ram logo, get that out of here. When they start having the Thursday night games with that color rush, I don't think I'll particularly watch that. That's gross.
Yeah, it is. It is very gross. Of course, it's not as bad as the Jets colors with the black and green, puke green for a lot of the fans out there that are puking right now, getting rid of Jamal Adams and what that season could be like with an Adam Gase.
You know what that Falcons jersey looks like? They've got the black pants and the red jerseys fade down to black. And it looks like my grandpa when he was like 80 years old and, he had the belt up here. The waist comes up to here. That's what I see when I see the Falcons jerseys. I see the old man with the pants up here.
I still feel like Adam Sandler and Michael Irvin are going to come out and they're going to do some type of longest deal or something. All right, let's go back out to the webheads. Only reason I watch Hard Knocks this year is because they both have new uniforms. That's it. Dylan Casey says best virtual edits video, Seminole Buccaneer. Johnny Dean, I guess he's just saying names at this point. Matt has a vein popping out somewhere on his head and neck area right now.
Hey, I like Matt.
Yeah, I like Matt too. The Deck Bar and Grill at East of the Soul. MyCannabisCard.com. You got Mike here. Brady gets hurt before Jackson. Bet on that, says Mike. I would bet against you on that. I think.
How can you even make a comment like that? Hold on. How can you make a comment like this guy's going to get hurt before some other guy's going to get hurt? Right. Who the heck are you, frickin' Kreskin? Wait, that's the young kids are going to not have any idea who I'm talking about. That's a silly comment. Somebody's going to get hurt before somebody else.
He might as well be Dr. Kevorkian with the way he's talking. It's Dr. Doom right there. I mean, come on. We're talking about injuries. You're talking about Brady getting hurt before Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is running more. He's more mobile than Tom Brady. Okay, so he has the opportunity to take those hits. I'm sorry to tell you, Mike.
Dude's got a cloudy crystal ball that he's trying to stare into there.
It must be an 8-ball.
I don't know what the heck he's doing. How do you even make a prediction like that?
I don't know. Almost positive no one has made the playoffs after Hard Knocks. League-wide Hard Knocks, make it happen. Hard Knocks should have been Cincinnati and New England. That would have been interesting. Chargers are a playoff team. Good team. Average quarterback. We shall see, Dylan. How about Corpusello, big board? He's going crazy. We'll talk hockey in just a little bit. Dylan, you're not going to change the subject here on the Sports Web. Not yet. I think Hard Knocks should cover the previous Super Bowl winner each year. Let them show America a winning team's locker room instead of always being a rebuilding team. That's interesting. Was interesting to see him mention Watson first in regard to a wide receiver 3 with Coach Arians. If we lose week 1, laugh out loud. Aren't we already the underdogs? I mean, in a lot of people's eyes, the Bucs are an underdog to the Saints. But to me, the advantage is having no fans, and we'll get back to that in a moment. Eric Scott, 2001 Ravens and 2013 Bengals made the playoffs after Hard Knocks. Ben Cornette, whoops, did they have more than 8 wins? Eric Scott both did. So there you go. Ben Cornette trolling at 1,000, but also dropping the knowledge here on the evolution. Okay, whomever called in and said no one had more than 8 wins after Hard Knocks, they screwed me up. The same guy that said Mahomes was cursed last year, that would be Mr. Matt Colson. I feel like I'm the only Bucs fan who does not have much confidence in Rojo. Why is that? I don't know. Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis rushed for 1,000 yards several years back. Really hope I'm proven wrong. What's up, boys? Says Joshua Cole Allen. And Sans Belt Pants Rick.
It's better than Sans Pants Rick. So, you know.
All right, let's go ahead and get Joshua Cole Allen on here. Welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. How you doing tonight, buddy?
Good, man. I just saw you guys all on here. I figured, Friday night, may as well get a little, crazy and jump on with you boys. How you doing?
Did you bring the pizza?
No, but I just had a couple of beers, so I mean,
that works.
Perfect.
Don't come here trash now.
Come on. I'm a very responsible guy. I'm not trash. I might not be wearing pants right now, but I'm good. No, I'm just kidding. Of course I'm wearing pants.
Nobody knows. I mean,
nobody knows unless I stand up.
Please don't do that. Don't be like See, that's the problem. You guys get around Tampa Bay Ray Kennedy, who I feel like is about to call in or come on here, and he would do something along those lines of wearing no pants and a camera. And we've all gotten used to it. With
that influence.
He is. He very much is. All right, let's go out to CBS Sports Line from Tyler Sullivan. He has 3 predictions for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020. You guys give me your thoughts. We'll go round robin on this. Tom Brady wins the MVP. His passer rating last year was 88. Oldest player in NFL history to win.
Cue up there.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay, let me go back through. The passer rating was at 88 last year. Oldest player in NFL history to win a league MVP. Peyton Manning in 2013. He cites that example. Also says the 12 personnel is going to be perfect for Brady. Talks about the weapons and Arians, but Tom Brady wins the MVP. Percentage that it happens in 2020. Go, Rick.
The percentage that Tom Brady wins MVP probably
I'd say more likely. Is that likely to happen? Do you see that happening this year? Okay.
No, I don't see him winning the MVP because, again, this is a whole different kind of an an animal than when you think of Winston throwing for 5,000 yards. I really don't think Brady's going to have gaudy statistics this year, simply because he's not going to need to. Everything is different this year. You're going to have teams trying to keep the ball out of the offense's hands, so you're going to have the other teams attempting ball control drives to keep Brady off the field. You're not going to be behind by 10 points, 6 minutes into the game because of 2 pick sixes. You're not going. It's just going to be a completely different animal. You're going to see a lot more action with the running backs. You're going to see the tight ends. You're not going to see all the deep passes to Evans and to Godwin because of desperation. You're not. It's not that Brady's not going to be the most valuable player, but they give the most valuable player award not to the most valuable player. They give the MVP to the flashiest, most impressive, eye-popping, wow kind of a player. So somebody like Brady may be the most valuable, but it doesn't mean he's going to win the award.
Andrew, likely to happen. Tom Brady is the MVP of the league.
No, I agree with Rick on that. You still got Patrick Mahomes. You got Lamar Jackson, who's chasing exactly what Patrick Mahomes has. Josh Allen, our boy down there, and the boy up there in Buffalo, they're both chasing greatness as well. I think Josh Allen can be a close competitor in there as well. We all know Russell Wilson is always at least in the talk of it. So Brady would have to put up at least, 4,900 and just like 49 touchdowns or 50 touchdowns or something like that, and just be better than what these kids are already in the league in order to probably win that MVP.
All right, Joshua Cole Allen, how do you feel about this? I think you kind of feel like I do. There's certainly a possibility Brady could be the MVP with all these weapons in this 12 personnel, right?
Yeah, let's call it 60%. I mean, you're looking at the best cast of weapons that Tom Brady has ever had in his entire career. And I understand what Rick is saying, what Andrew is saying about, the run game being more involved and running up the clock. But Tom Brady is not one to say, all right, we're up, 10 points. Let's just run the ball out, run the clock out. Will he want to do that? Yes. But if he sees Mike Evans on a 2nd and 8 or Chris Godwin coming over the middle, these players are two of the best players in yak in the league. If he sees them, hits them, and they go for a touchdown, Brady's a step on your throat type of player. We saw that in 2007 when they ran up the score on the Titans, on the Washington Redskins, 50 points here, 40 points there. We talked about it. He needs to average for 48 touchdowns. So it's 3 touchdowns a game. We just heard Bruce Arians in his press conference say that he likes to use the screen and the outside like hooks and stuff like that for his running backs as an extension of the run play. And let's look back at Tom Brady. What is his bread and butter? Passing to the tight ends, passing it to those running backs out of the backfield. If Rojo is the guy that he's, he says he's, been working on, caught over 300 balls. He's been talking to Tom Brady. Tom told him to run his routes low and like he already has the ball. So when he catches the ball, he can take off and be, in space and make those moves. I can definitely see 3 touchdowns a game for Tom Brady with this offense. I mean, you look at the firepower and the weapons. Just look at the red zone. Tom Brady gets in the red zone inside the 20. You line up in not 12 personnel, but 13 personnel. You got Cam Brate. You have Gronkowski. You have O.J. Howard. You have Rojo or LaShawn McCoy in the backfield with Mike Evans out wide. Who can stop that? Who can match up against that and stop that? The guy's going to throw at least 38 touchdowns in my book. And maybe he won't have the yards, but again, like Rick said too, MVP goes to the flashiest player. But Tom Brady could definitely lead the league in touchdowns for sure in my mind.
Yeah, if the record is gaudy, even if the statistics are not gaudy, if the Bucs are 15-1, then I could see maybe it happening because of the shift in record. But I don't see that happening. How many MVPs does Brady have in his career? Like 3, and they were all pretty early, weren't they?
Yeah. No, they're actually later in his career.
Oh, when
he got one in 2007. I believe he got the other one in 2011, I want to say. And then one more recently.
2016?
Something like that. I don't have the dates, memorized. I apologize.
It's been about 4 years. No, I understand. I didn't know.
But they weren't within his first 3 years of winning those Super Bowls out of 3 out of the 4 when they won those 3.
One of them was 6 years in. One of them was 8 years in, I guess, if they're the numbers you just said. So yeah, they were earlier in his. 2 of them were earlier in his career.
If you
this
want,
is not a guy This is not a guy churning out MVPs.
Well, I'm just saying, Tom Brady too. A lot of people are like, "Oh, his arm's not good. His arm's not good." Since 2017, he's the second best quarterback to throw for 20 plus yards with completions after Russell Westbrook, and with 97. I mean, you're talking about some of these guys. Obviously, you look at a guy like Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Russell Westbrook's right there, but he can still throw the ball 20 plus yards or more. And if you're throwing the ball that far and that deep, usually it means you're in a bad situation where you need to chuck the ball up deep. You're trying to get a quick score on the board or something like that. It's not. He's the ultimate game manager. He's the guy that you. Right. Luke Eastling said it on my show the other day, especially in this COVID pandemic where teams are learning new things. He's the guy you want behind center, learning this new offense, learning it. And I think the Berkeley prep practices have already given him chemistry with these guys. And from everything that Bruce is saying, he's got it down. It's just about going up against his defense, which is going to be a huge test because of how versatile he is. But he had to curse him out the other day for throwing the ball through walkthroughs. This Tom Brady is ready to go, and I think it's all systems go. Foot on your throat, throttle to throttle pedal to the metal, and it's go time for him.
I got an interesting question. Will the Buccaneers, taking Tom Brady's age into account, will Bruce Arians pull back the throttle if they're ahead? Will he? You don't think so?
Let me answer this question right now. I agree with Josh. I agree with everything that you've said because he has something to prove because of the Bill Belichick chip on his shoulder. And there's talking heads out there that feel like he's not going to be the same quarterback. He is going to have a phenomenal year. I think it's over 60%. And I also think Bruce Arians, because he's a quarterback whisperer and he wants to prove that he can do it with the greatest of all time, is going to try to throw the ball all over the place. Brady is going to have a comeback year. He's going to be phenomenal. And I definitely believe he could be the MVP of the league. Just my thoughts. And to your question, I don't think he's going to pull back at all. I think the Bucs are in this attitude, and this comes from Pro Football Talk, where they don't give two you-know-whats about it. They're going for the jugular. They're trying to basically beat everybody's brains out, and they have the offense to do it. Now, the second point here, the defense ranks top 3 in points allowed. Well, what the writer says is the run defense was top in the league, 12th ranked at the end of the season in secondary against the pass, according to Pro Football Focus, or Pro Football Outsider, excuse me. 4th worst in scoring defense, 28-1, but they mentioned the biggest elephant in the room, and that is the cutting down of the turnovers from Jameis Winston. Brady will take care of the ball, which in turn will also help the defense. Rick, how do you feel about this prediction?
Absolutely correct. That the defense, I actually wrote an article about this for Bucs Report, all about how the quarterback impacts the defense. I think the defense is going to look, the statistics are going to be almost funny this year because of the difference in not having bad, taking over always in bad field position because of the situation. You're going to have your defense isn't right back on the field again. There's going to be a lot less time on the field. I think the teams are going to run right into their strength, right into the heart of the defense. And what does this defense love to do? Run stop. And teams are going to try and do that a lot with the Buccaneers. I think the defensive statistics this year are going to be surprising simply as an effect of Tom Brady.
All right, Andrew, how do you feel about this big board? Defense, top 3 in scoring, points allowed.
A top 3 is pushing it just because there's a few other good defenses out there. But they're going to make a hell of an improvement. Oh, hell yeah. I got them sitting at 26.8 points per game next year, which is obviously a way better increase than the 28.1. Using the Colin Cowherd metrics to it, every time you bring a quarterback into a new system who is already proven, whether he's the elite superstar or the GOAT, you get an extra point on your per game and on the defense, just like you were explaining there. Now, take into considerations that we have the young guys sitting in the backfield, our starters for sure are one of the best all around, but it's the lack of the depth that we have always talked about, and that's kept us afloat here for the last little while. We need a little bit more depth for the times that we meet a good offense that say has 3 to 4 good running backs and just keeps pounding the line. We're eventually going to need to substitute a couple of the guys out, put some fresh bodies in there, and hope and pray. So that's really where the weakness is. But to say top 3, that's where I push back, because I still think top 5 is where the ceiling would be, I guess you would say. The low part is top 10, though. But our defense is definitely going to be a lot better than a lot of people are still giving them credit to be. And Tom Brady is going to help that, because we are going to be ahead most of the time. A lot of people are going to be taking shots down the field, and it's going to allow Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean and the other guys to start getting these picks, start looking like the top cornerbacks in the league. And then when we start talking about, who's got the top wide receivers in the leagues, maybe next year it's not even going to be a question on the other side of the ball of who's got the top corners in the league as well.
Good stuff, Joshua.
My takeaway really quickly is I just didn't even know Colin Cowherd had metrics.
Respectively, of course.
All right, Joshua Cole Allen, how do you feel about the defense top 3 in points allowed?
I mean, I've spoke on regular that I have this defense as the top 5 points 3 allowed. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Obviously, everyone's mind is on that secondary. Can they continue to gel from last year? Can they continue to progress? As Andrew just said, with a guy like Tom Brady, he doesn't just help on offense and in a game. He helps in practice. He helps these guys. He'll see, what it – we talked to Keon Crossan, before, and he told him as a 7th-round draft pick, Tom Brady came up to him and said, hey, what are you seeing on this? What are you seeing on that? How do you think I can, perfect this or change this up? He's going to go up to these guys and ask them their advice, and they're going to go back and forth and pick each other's brain. And it's just going to make this defense better, the secondary better going forward as well. A lot of the picks are going to come there now. This is another year for this team in Todd Bowles' system. We know Todd Bowles is the big proponent of letting his guys, when he feels they're comfortable enough, to freelance and go after those balls. Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean also finished in the top 5 of pass breakups. And you look at it, they didn't start the full year. These guys were they didn't start to like the last 8 games, I believe, really being thrown in there after the Vernon Hargreaves trade or release rather. So the ability for these guys to get better is going to be there. Whether they shut opponents down to limit their points is something that we'll have to see, but I definitely think we'll see more picks. Obviously, we're bringing back the number 1 ranked rush defense. And last year, they went against a murderous row of running backs. This year, they have a much easier schedule. Obviously, you have CMC on that schedule twice a year. So, I mean, that doesn't get any easier. Alvin Kamara. But as far as other teams they're facing, they have a lighter load there. I definitely think this defense is a top 5, top 3 in points. I need to see that week 1. I need to see a little bit more before I say that they're going to shut down teams scoring-wise. But I definitely like the chances. I definitely have them as a top 5 overall defense, so for sure.
Absolutely can happen, and I'll tell you why, because of what they did in the offseason. Bringing back a JPP, he'll be healthy, knock on wood. Not only that, you have a Shaq Barrett who's going to be motivated because he's on a 1-year contract. Not only were they number 1 against the run, but those last 6 games, number 1 and 2 in some categories. Those players got the much-needed experience they needed in that second year of Todd Bowles' defense, so they're going to be that much better. Yep. And you have an emerging star in Devin White. It's absolutely a possibility because you cut down on the turnovers, so your defense is not going to be behind the wall or behind the 8 ball, if you will, in bad situations. I definitely feel like the defense is being overlooked. They're going to have something to prove and book on it that this defense is definitely going to be top 3.
Yeah, and Peter, to add to that as well, I mean, you think about it, the pressures that this team had last year, they were number 1 in the league in pressures. Pressures turned into pressure sacks. If these cornerbacks can make that jump, like you just said, and be those guys, now you're talking about coverage sacks, pressure sacks, coverage sacks. They can be the best team, one of the best teams in the league in pressures, and also they can be one of the best teams in the league in coverage if these guys take that jump forward. pick your poison, because you're not going to have anyone to throw it to because no one's going to be open. And then you got the two of the top pressure rushers coming at you in the league. Like we also heard Todd Bowles again. Vita Vea is going to get more snaps. We've seen how close he was to sacks. Devin White a full year. It's going to be very difficult for this team to stop. And Bruce Arians said that, once Tom Brady, they throw on the pads, this team is very it's very intricate, and there's a lot of moving parts to it. And it's going to be great for Tom to go up against that and these young guys to go up against that, because it's tough to stop. Where is it coming from? What are they going to do? So I completely agree with you.
And to add to what Josh is kind of saying there too, like we did draft Antoine Winfield in the backside as well. And so we can start doing stuff where we can start letting our corners, go after these quarterbacks, and they can start taking those shots down the field, because we actually look like we have the coverage now on the deep side to allow this defense to really show what it's capable of.
Good stuff. All right. The third prediction is what, fellas?
What was that?
What's the third prediction for 2020 out of this article? What does he think the Bucs are going to do in 2020?
Hopefully win the Super Bowl.
That's exactly what he said. Bucs win Super Bowl 55 in Tampa. Bucs will be the first team in NFL history to do this as long as they can stay healthy. It has all the tools to have arguably the most complete team in the conference. It's poised to go deep into the playoffs and come out with a Lombardi, their first since 2003. Rick Hughes, your thoughts?
It certainly could happen. I think we're talking a lot about potential. We're saying the cornerbacks are going to do this, and the Devin White's going to do this. There's a lot of potential. Assuming they meet their potential, this could certainly be a Super Bowl year for the Buccaneers. They're in the mix, that's for darn sure, especially in the NFC, which I just don't see. I think the cream of the crop in general is in the AFC, which makes the NFC all up for grabs.
Yeah, I mean, you have San Francisco, you have Seattle, who's added Jamal Adams. Green Bay, you think maybe in it, who knows, with Aaron Rodgers. Of course, Arizona's being talked about, but really, like you said, I mean, New Orleans, of course, the Saints in their own division, so it should be interesting. Andrew Fulbert, Bucs, Super Bowl win 55, first team to do in NFL history. Your thoughts?
Well, considering I'm going to be that guy who's drunk on the beach after they do it, I've started to come around to it. And honestly, when you look at the stats, when you look at the schedule, when I kind of went through everything that could happen this upcoming season, I got the Buccaneers sitting there at 12-4, like I said before. But with the way that the schedule would break down is you're going to meet somebody like Arizona in the first round. They're a new team. They're going to have a lot of skill and stuff like that, but they're not going to know how to play the all-around game that's needed to win just one game. Tom Brady knows how to do that. So there's your easy first-round win. I got them playing the Saints in the second round, where it's going to be a tough, gritty matchup, but it shows why he's the GOAT and Drew Brees is just statistically a really good quarterback. And then you go to the third round, where they're probably going to play somebody like Philadelphia, in my honest opinion, which really just makes it this historic run, because now we got to play this team that is, the monkey wrench essentially in this whole operation, because they're just Philadelphia. We did this to them. They could easily do it to us. They could take away what we have desired. But I don't think that's what would happen. We're going to meet somebody like Baltimore or the Chiefs. I got to be in Baltimore in the finals. And someone like Lamar Jackson, who is going to be great, needs to lose. Patrick Mahomes has already won. So my honest opinion, he's going to be great for many years. He's always going to be in contention, just like Russell Wilson. But he may only get 2 or 3, and this may happen later on down the road. I think Lamar Jackson will meet the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl, lose, and then get that drive that's basically going to get him over the hump. But I think this is where the Buccaneers are going to shine, is having that type of a system, having that rookie quarterback who will not know what to do. This is the type of path that the Buccaneers are going to take to host that Lombardi at home, be the first team to ever do it, and who better to be the one to do it than the GOAT himself.
Well, yeah, think about what you said. I'm sorry, Josh. Josh. When you think about what you just said, you're right. I mean, if it really will probably come down to Seattle, New Orleans, and Tampa. Now, if that happens, how many Super Bowls does Drew Brees have?
1.
How many does Russell Wilson have?
1.
Preach it, Rick.
How many does Brady have?
6.
He's been to 9 also.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's a huge statistic. He's been to 9.
Lucky catches, missed holding calls, and an illegal play in the Phillies special. He should have all 9 of them.
Yeah. I mean, it's an amazing thing when you think about, and now you're saying this is who it's going to come down in the NFC. It's going to come down to this. I mean, I think there's going to, this season's going to get a little weird because of COVID. I think there's going to be a team that's going to be a disappointment. If I had to guess, I would not be shocked if Drew Brees just seems like too many things are going wrong. It's starting to come unraveled there. He doesn't seem like it's the same sort of commanding Drew Brees is unquestionable sort of a thing that it's been for years. Now people are questioning him. Now this really is his last year. Is he hanging on 1 year too long? You get a lot of that vibe and a lot of that feeling. I'm not that impressed with Russell Wilson, and he just keeps winning.
Yeah, he just keeps winning with guys that, are not that great. He's never really had a great wide receiver, but he very well may have one in a DK Metcalf who, look, he had all the potential coming out of college. He had all the measurables. What he had to figure out is, was he going to be able to put it all together, apply that on the field, and be able to stay healthy? And he's definitely been able to do that. So there's high expectations. And then the addition of Adams, a lot of people feel like they got the West there, but it's going to be tough with the San Francisco 49ers. Joshua Cole Allen, Brady and the Bucs, Super Bowl 55. Your thoughts?
You know what's on the guys' minds. You know what's on all their players' minds. They know the ship is in their backyard this year, and they want it. And I'll go as far as to tell you that I, in fact, know that they want it, and it's on their minds. Chris Godwin was on CBS, NFL on CBS today with Nate Burleson, and he asked him about that. And Nate Burleson asked him, the Super Bowl's in Tampa. What do you think? And he said, it's got to be the goal. It's got to be the goal. And if you're not thinking of that, I think you're in the wrong profession. Nate Burleson went on to tell him, say to him that, listen, CBS is covering the Super Bowl, so can I say I'll see you in Tampa? And he said, for sure. We heard Reed Sinet on earlier on the show that, when Peter, I believe, asked the question, we talked to Tom, has he said anything about, Super Bowl or anything like that? And he addressed that. The first time we talked to some of these young guys, he addressed, look at the goals of Super Bowl. We know, as Rick said, his Super Bowl pedigree, six-time champion, 4-time Super Bowl MVP. And also 5-time Super Bowl MVP, I'm sorry. And also nine trips. AFC championship games, he's gone to half of his career. He's been there. The guy knows how to get there. He knows how to do it. He's bringing a guy that's done it with him for three Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowls he's actually played in. He's bringing it down here. BA's been in Super Bowls. He knows what to do. This team is ready to go. They're locked and loaded. They're bringing LaShawn McCoy, who didn't play in the Super Bowl, but was in a Super Bowl. This team is ready. They're ready to make that jump. I forget who said it. I believe it was Colin Cowherd said that they were a good quarterback away from making that run at a Super Bowl. And I can't agree more. You bring in someone like Tom. The goal is, as Peter will say, the goal is not make the playoffs. The goal is Super Bowl or bust. That is what's at stake here. Tom said when he came down here in his long post on the Players Tribune that he wants to make history. Well, he's already got all the history on his side. He's got the playoff statistics. He's got the Super Bowl wins, the Super Bowl MVPs. He's up there with regular season MVPs. The things left for him to do is touchdown record, which him and Drew Brees are going back and forth. Passing record, which him and Drew Brees are going back and forth. And something like, I don't know, winning a Super Bowl in the hometown of your team, right. Being the one quarterback to go from one team to another team and win the Super Bowl in their first team, learning a system, being a quarterback to win a Super Bowl in a COVID-19 world where everything is upside down, topsy-turvy, you're losing all this time. Tom Brady's out to make history. He's not out to just play football because he loves it, which is also true. He does love it, and it's the reason why Giselle hasn't got him to quit yet. but he's here to make history. Drew Brees, as Rick Hughes just said, he's got maybe 1 year left in him. And even then he was, as Andrew said, even kind of timid on that. Is he fully in? Is he fully out? Well, if Drew Brees only plays 1 more year, Tom Brady's in striking distance of that touchdown record, of that passing record. And if he wins the Super Bowl right here, no one, not anyone in their grandma or anyone, can say that he is not the undisputed GOAT. Asterisks, no asterisks, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to, hate in your heart tells you, the absolutely undisputed GOAT of the NFL forever. So this is a Super Bowl bound team.
Here's a bold prediction. I do not think that Drew Brees is going to finish this year out. I do believe that by the end of this year, Brady's got pretty much all the records.
And I'll tell you right now, I think you guys are right. And what have I always said here on the evolution of sports talk, television, the sports web? It's Super Bowl or bust. I'm going to hold up on my prediction, but you kind of know where I'm going.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, bring the passion.
That's what I thought he was going to go with that, too. I was ready.
It's so easy, right, to say this. I mean, it's a perfect storm. You get everybody back on defense. You draft your offensive line. You get the greatest quarterback of all time. You get his biggest weapon. You have Bruce Arians. You're in your own backyard. Absolutely a definite possibility. I'm just not going to make the prediction yet.
Everything's lining up perfect.
Yes, exactly, Joshua.
And New Jerseys.
Yeah, thankfully, yes. Oh, my God.
All right, let's go out to the webheads here. Lots of comments from these guys. Can't neglect them. And, of course, open phone line, 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. Like my man said, Joshua Cole Allen, bring the passion, bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with Rick Hughes from the Cheap Seats. You got Andrew, Mr. Full Bear, Big Board out of Canada, and Joshua Cole Allen just grinding as always here on Bucs Report. I don't know how long he's been with us. I think a month, 2 months.
3 months now.
Absolutely knocking it out of the park. Let's go out to these webheads here.
By the way, moment of silence. Tonight was supposed to be the night. Right now, the game should be over. The first preseason game should have just ended.
Oh, well, there you go. And that would be the Jets and Giants. But, of course, if you're a Jets fan, just in the season anyway, you have as a coach. Congratulations. All right. Let's see. Tim says, let's get back to these comments. Did he mean Russell Wilson or did he mean Russell Westbrook join the NFL? Stop being an ass there, Tim. You know what he meant. Dang.
Did I say Russell Westbrook?
I said Russell Westbrook, and I'm going to take something from Peter if he doesn't mind. Would you shut up?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well played.
You're still in my mottos here, but that's good. I got a better one for you. Ready?
I can never steal your mottos. They're trademarked by you.
Exactly. Come on, man. You know what we're talking about. It's not Russell Westbrook. Hell, it's not even Michael Westbrook. It's Russell Wilson. Stop it. Stop it with the nonsense. Russell
NBA's
Wilson. I've been doing NBA prep too. Tim says, let you blame it on the beers. So blame the beers on that. He only had 2. Russell Westbrook will be the first player to win MVP in season. Bet that. Yeah, right. He's not a selfish player by any means, right? Him and James Harden. Roof the truth. What would be the Bucs' Achilles heel? What would be the Bucs' Achilles heel? The question on this team for me is the offensive line. What do you guys say? Rick, first.
Kicking. I think the Achilles heel could literally be an Achilles heel. I mean, it's just horrifying to think of what could happen with our kicking game. It's just I lose sleep at night thinking.
You know how you solve kicking problems? 4 touchdowns.
Sure. Until you're missing 5 extra points, like Atlanta last year or whatever it was. I mean, you just please tell me that Matt Gay has been living. I want a tent in Raymond James Stadium so that when Matt Gay wakes up in the morning, the first thing he does when he steps out is start kicking field goals to practice into that north end zone. I mean, I mean, seriously, when I tell you I lose sleep, it's horrifying what could happen. I'm so sick of bad kicking from the Buccaneers. players. I mean,
gentlemen,
don't draft anybody else either, please.
ladies and gentlemen, can you see the bags under this man's eyes? I mean, he lives, breathes, eats Tampa Bay Buccaneer football. Matt Gay, you've got to do better. And I agree with you on that because, look, it's come down to close kicks, right? Adam Vinatieri, how many kicks did he make in Super Bowls to win? So you're exactly right. If it comes down to it, you want to know that Matt Gay is going to be able to make the kick. So
the Super Bowl is in Tampa.
Oh,
it's the big. You've got the final drive. All you need is a 35-yard kick.
Get out. Don't say it. Don't curse it. Don't you talk about the Buffalo Bills. Don't you talk about Scott Norwood. Don't you
speak that evil.
Matt Gay against the Giants.
Don't you speak that evil on me, Rick Hughes. Don't you do it. Big board. Help me.
I'm going to stab myself with a knife.
What's the biggest? Will you shut up? What's the Achilles heel for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020?
First of all, thank you guys for dropping a Ricky Bobby line while my wife is watching this too. That's like her favorite movie, so much respect to that.
Okay, first and foremost, happy wife, happy life, and
exactly.
Already your wife is a winner because she likes Ricky Bobby and she speaks Will Ferrell. That's all I got to say. All right, go back.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Without agreeing with Rick about every great comment he's made tonight as well, because the kicking is really the biggest heel of this whole organization right now. The one thing, though, that could really, besides kicking, derail all this is if, say, Ryan Jensen went down. Then we're moving Marpet or somebody over, and we've seen what Marpet could be as a center. It's not necessarily that great. We don't want Kappa in there either. And Brady is not ready to groom another center. He can groom these wide receivers and a couple of these running backs and a couple of tight ends. That's just common knowledge when you have a quarterback. But to groom a center, especially when you have Ryan Jensen, who is arguably top 5 center in the league, so that would probably be the biggest Achilles heel, in my honest opinion, right now going forward.
All right, Joshua Cole Island, what's the Achilles heel for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020?
I'm going to answer this and then I'm going to get out of here, Peter. But I'm not going to say kicking because I had Bradley Pinion on the Audible about 2 weeks ago, and he said that Matt Gay has looked the most accurate and sharpest that he's looked since he came into the league. They've been doing a lot of work, been reading sniper books to get their mindset in the sniper's nest to figure out what they do because they're looking at wind, they're looking at humidity, all these different things. I think Matt Gay has really worked hard on his craft, and I think he's going to improve. He was pretty good last year until he hit that rookie wall. I got Ricky Bobby on the line. Rookie
I was
wall.
just going to say.
And Bruce Arians even spoke on that. For me, it's kind of a little bit of what Andrew said. It's depth, injuries, and progression. I've spoke on it. The progression of this secondary matters most to what this defense is able to do. Obviously, injuries is, we hope there's no injury bug. And then because the depth at some of these positions at outside offensive line, defensive line, outside linebacker, inside linebacker is not the strongest and you would hope to have. If I had to pick one of them, I would definitely say depth and injuries. If there's something that happens with some of these guys, you look at outside linebackers, you have two of the best in JPP and Shaq. Someone goes down, who are you throwing in there? Anthony Nelson, who's still an unknown, shows promise. You're throwing in Quentin Bell. I love the guy. He's a good friend of the show and a friend of mine, but haven't seen him do it on tape. Mike Divinity Jr., same thing, undrafted free agent. Then you look in the middle, Jack Cicci, Kevin Minter, if one of those inside goes go down. Yeah, they could do it, but are you confident? Nunez Roaches Jr. The most depth we have on this team comes in that secondary, and that's the biggest question mark on this defense is that secondary. If there's an injury on that offensive line anywhere, well, who are you plugging in there? Joe Haig. Well, who's behind Joe Haig?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The wide receiver depth looks like it's going to be better this year than it was last year. Scotty Miller put on 10 pounds, according to Bruce Arians. You saw, I don't know if you've seen the video of him just lift up Jaden Mickens out of the air like he was a rag doll. He's obviously the fastest guy on the team. Justin Watson, Bruce Arians has also said, looks very comfortable, knows the playbook inside and out, looks better in his routes and everything like that. So I'm not worried about wide receiver, but the trenches, which obviously if you hear Alex Fleming in the back of your head about the Saints drafting the trenches, because I always hear it when I say trenches, that's somewhere where I believe we talked about this in our group as well, that they have the position set, especially if they can bring back a Levante David, Shaq Barrett, Chris Godwin. It's time to start drafting those trenches because that's where they need some, I wouldn't say starter help, but definitely some depth help. So depth and injuries, Achilles heel for me.
Please, I'm so tired of everybody saying that Matt Gay hit a rookie wall. What was it, week 2 against the Giants?
That's not his fault. He should have never been in that situation to kick that kick. As a 5th-round draft pick rookie, having to go in there your first time under the lights because it was a primetime game and having all that pressure on you.
Is he not earning a paycheck like every other player?
I give him a pass, though. I mean, I give him that pass on that one. Yeah, it sucked, but I give him the pass. He should never been in there. Jameis Winston with his interceptions. Come on, get out of here with that one. You want to blame the Atlanta Falcons game where he missed 3 field goals? I'll give you that. But then Jameis still sealed the deal with a pick 6 in the first play of overtime. So, I mean, get out of here, too.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about this. First and foremost, Matt Gay did hit a rookie wall. But I'll tell you right now, let's hold off on that. Let's go out to Matt Colson. Matt, welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. You're on with yours truly, Rick Hughes from the Chief Seats, Andrew Fulberry, the big board out of Canada, and Joshua Cole Allen.
I'm going to get behind Rick on this one. Matt Gay kicks more effectively from 45 yards out than he does from 20. There's something fundamentally wrong about that, and that's where we're going to lose games. Because if he does that nonsense again now, there's no...
Matt, let me ask you a question. Would you rather have Matt Gay or Stephen Gostkowski?
I don't think...
Would you rather have Matt Gay or Stephen Gostkowski?
Okay, I'll take Matt Gay for 100.
Okay, so there you go. Stephen Gostkowski missed a numerous amount of kicks, extra points inside the 30-yard line the past couple seasons. He's also one of the most accurate and best kickers of all time. Things happen. They just recently changed the kicking yard back for extra points. I'm not worried. He's a 5th-round draft pick. He looked very well last year, and I think he's going to get better. I'm not ready to throw the towel on him. He wasn't horrific. I think that he will get better. And if he doesn't, guess what? It's the same carousel of kickers that keeps going on until they find a good one. But to give up on him after one season, I think you can't.
No, I
agree. Give him more time.
I don't think you're giving up on him. What Rick is trying to say is, once again, you've got to make those kicks. And, whether he's under the lights in a pressure situation, that's what you get paid to do. You've got to make those kicks. Right. You got to kick the ball. And look,
one job.
Right.
He can kick it.
One job. That's it.
All he's got to do is kick off.
Yep.
I don't want to see him put it in the end zone. I'd rather have him kick to the 5.
Well,
every single time.
I don't know.
You can't say, okay, he was a 5th-round pick. Aguayo was a 2nd-round pick. So that in itself is not a stat that matters.
That was undeserving pick.
What's that?
Undeservingly, he should never win in the 2nd round. The amount of pressure that was put on him because of that is why he had so many struggles.
And he's held accountable. And it's the same thing with Matt Gay. You're held accountable for how you perform. It's not, it's not your fault because you're a rookie. It's not. No, you got to hit that kick. It was a makeable kick, and he just plain missed it. And that's his job.
And it was not Jameis Winston's fault. It was the defense that couldn't get off the field. It was the defense that couldn't stop the quarterback on 4th down. You got a rookie quarterback in your home territory. You got to shut him down. You can't let him throw for over 300 yards. That's despicable. And that defense the first half of the year had a lot of work to do, and they didn't do it against the Giants. Then again, you're put in that situation, and even the coach moves you over so you can make that kick, and you don't do it. To be fair, though, after that, he made his kicks pretty consistently, and then the Atlanta game happened, and it was a complete disaster. So I still have faith in Matt Gay being the biggest Achilles heel on this team. To me, the biggest Achilles heel or the biggest question mark, 43-year-old Tom Brady. You got to keep him upright. You got to keep him healthy. Gronk, 31 years old, multiple back problems. I have back problems. It's not a good situation. So you've got to keep these older players healthy, and you also got to watch out for your wide receivers. Even though they're top 5, they both went out with hamstring injuries. So to me, the Achilles heel of this team overall could be the health situation because, like Johnny Dean says, they don't have necessarily the most depth.
No, they don't. And Mike Evans is known for pulling hamstrings.
Well, let's knock on wood when we say that. Can we stop with the Madden curses and the voodoo tonight? I feel
We're
like
talking about Achilles heels, though. I mean, what do you want? You want us to
Hey,
be
just stop saying the word Achilles heel. That's the last thing we need for any of these players.
right.
Yeah, let's not talk
Good
Achilles.
choice
right
of
now.
words, Ruth. The truth. You couldn't have said weakness. Come on, Ruth.
Matt, what are you saying here? I don't hear what you're saying. It sounds like you're speaking Spanish or something.
No, I said that
Don't speak
Devin
Spanish.
has got a history of having hamstring problems, and without the preseason and without the preseason games and without the scrimmages against Miami or whoever Jacksonville that we normally do during practice, he's not going to have the time to get that stretched out. So to me, if you really want to know the truth, Evans is the big question mark, because I know Brady's going to do fine even if he's got a weak front line.
Sure.
He'll figure out 1, 2, 3 and go. And he's going to do that because he's done it for the last 15 years. It's not a science project that you got to teach him like you had to do with Jameis.
Right.
But your health issues, I don't think Gronk was brought here to start. I think Gronk was brought here to tell people how to be professionals.
Agree.
And how to be champions. And so I don't expect him to be on the field as much as Cameron Brate, to be honest with you.
Well, what happens if they
I disagree with that.
season? Because our own Leo Haggerty brought this up from Night Sports Productions, It Sports Mag, the legend himself, former Coach Scout and now media member, that early on in the season, a Gronk may not see that much time because they're preserving him for that postseason run. That's why I feel like O.J. Howard Juice, which is what Brady is calling him now, could really have a breakout year because first and foremost, he doesn't have the pressure to be the number one guy. On top of it, he wants to prove himself. He can be Rob Gronkowski if he puts his mind to it, but he's got to learn how to be a professional. He's going to be out with a Rob Gronkowski. He's got to be a better blocker, which I think he'll learn from Gronkowski. And because he won't have that necessarily pressure that he had last year of being the number one target for the tight end, I think that he could excel in this offense, especially with the propensity, Leo word, of what he likes to do with throwing the tight end. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that Rob Gronkowski, we might not be the every down starter, but he was brought in here for a few reasons. One of them being him and Tom Brady's chemistry, which has been spoke upon by both Tom and Gronk and Bruce Arians. They know each other. So going into that week one where these guys aren't having in-game live reps or preseason reps, whether you think it's useless or not, they're not hitting the ground running already while everyone's still kind of learning. Yep. They already know each other, and that's why I see a lot of input and a lot of Gronk in the early season while everyone still gets to know each other. And as far as OJ and Gronk being, I think OJ is going to learn a lot from him. He's already said he can learn a lot from him. Do I think he can be him? I don't think so. But another reason you brought in Gronk is red zone. Yep. Gronk is one of the best red zone targets ever to play the game. He's got 56 out of his 80 touchdowns in the red zone. This guy is an animal there. You look at the years that he's been fully healthy and in the red zone, he's put up 9, 12, 13 touchdowns in the red zone. And like I said a little bit earlier, we're going to see a lot of 13 personnel with your Cam Brate, with your Gronk, with your OJ, with your Mike Evans, and good luck trying to stop that. There's not a personnel package in the league that can stop the athleticism of Gronk, OJ, the size of Mike Evans, and the ability of Cam Brate. You throw in a Rojo or LaShawn or Keish, whatever running back you want to throw in Dare for all I care. Good luck stopping that package because it's going to be extremely difficult for you.
All right,
Joshua, that's you are dead on. I mean, I don't think you could be more correct. Everything you just said. I think you'll see at the very beginning of the year, you're going to see a lot of Gronk for the first couple of games. Then he'll disappear for a little bit. Everybody's going to say, "Oh, look, he's done. His age, he's done," and they're going to be preserving him.
Exactly. They're going to want to keep him fresh at the end of the season for that playoff run, which is why I think that Week 13 bye is so critical. Whereas many other years you might want it a little earlier, 9, 8,
right?
But to keep everyone fresh, and then you have 4 games before the playoffs start after that Week 13 bye. Yeah. So now you've got a week to rest yourself up. And you go in, you take that time off to, hopefully we don't have any trips to Miami on any boats or anything like that. Everyone's dialed in, and you go full bore.
Yeah, no Odell Beckham, right, Andrew? I mean, no Andrew, no Odell Beckham at all. None of those boat trips. Matt, we're up against it. Thanks a lot for the call. Appreciate you. All right.
All right, Peter. Y'all have a good night.
All right.
Good night, Matt.
There. So, John,
Matt.
hold on. We got to get you out of here. Go ahead and promote yourself.
Just want to say, first of all, thanks for letting me crash your party. I know I wasn't, scheduled on here, but
Good.
I always love coming on and talking to you guys, especially when you got Rick and Andrew. I got a bone to pick with Andrew. I saw you got, Vegas Golden Knights in there. I saw you had the smart choice to have Boston in the final. Final, not finals, everybody. The last game is called the final. But Boston's going to win that. So, but other than that, find me on Twitter at Joshua_C_Allen. Things are starting to ramp up. Obviously, pads go on Monday. Bruce Arians will have a press conference every day. Follow me at Twitter because I'll be live tweeting them on Twitter, and also from Bucs Report content up the ying up there. I'm always, anything you want to know about the Bucs, from Pete Pro Football Book, whatever, it's on my Twitter. So make sure you follow me there. Obviously, the Audible every Wednesday night at 7:30. Check that out. Right after the Sports Web, so make sure you stay tuned for that. I've got some articles on the way. But again, just thank you for having me on here tonight. Kind of, called an audible and jumped on. And thanks for you guys.
Absolutely, and we will definitely have him on the Sports Web during the week. Remember, 5 nights a week for 3 hours. Who does that? Nobody besides on Bucs Report. Thanks a lot, Joshua Cole Allen. Appreciate you, all right?
Have a good night, guys,
Thanks,
and have
buddy.
a great weekend. Be safe.
All right, be safe. There you go. Good stuff. Rick Hughes, go ahead and promote yourself.
Okay, you can pretty much find my stuff. The easiest way to do it, just go to www.cheapseats.live. Just go there. All my links are there. Be looking for the articles that we have here, and be on September 13th. Be there or be square, man. You do not want to miss that first show. It's going to be great. If you don't make it, walk the freaking plank.
All right, there you go. Rick Hughes, thanks a lot for coming on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. All right, my friend?
Good night.
All right, good night. There you go. He's got his cat in the background. I don't know what that was all about. Andrew Fullbear, the big board. Go ahead and promote yourself, my friend.
Peter, as always, it's a pleasure to be on. You know me, I'm Andrew Big Board, Fullbear, but I also do North Sports. Thank you, Peter, for letting me have a moment to talk about it. I am going to be on tomorrow, season 2. We're going to be going on live at 1 o'clock Mountain Time, so that's 3 o'clock Eastern Time for all you gents out there and ladies who are watching. It's a little bit more borderline. I like to keep it nice and professional when I talk to Peter, but when I talk about everything else, including the Buccaneers, but also NHL, NFL, MLB, MLS, NASCAR, you name it, basketball, I talk about it, and I add some cussing in there. I don't hold back. That's just the platform I've been enjoying, and that's what we do up here in Canada. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to be having my podcast uploaded onto Spotify shortly after every time it's all done. So follow me on there. Look for Foobs. Look for the North Sports logo, and you'll get every single episode. Download them, listen to them whenever you want. Find me on Twitter at Andrew_Fullbear, and I'll be here around Bucs Report every single time. As you see, I'm a contributor. I do things when Peter asks, when he tells me to come on the show. I'm here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me again, Peter. Talk to you soon.
Real quick, Columbus and Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay wins that game 3 or what?
Okay, so I got Tampa Bay winning game 3, but as you can see here, I don't know if you can necessarily see, I don't have Tampa winning. I think Columbus has got the depth to take it in game 7. I'm sorry, gents.
Yeah, that's what I think about you. Here's another one for you. Ready?
All right. The sad part is being a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan and not a Tampa Bay Lightning fan. I'm aware.
All right, big board. Thanks a lot for coming on the Evolution. All right.
Thanks again, Peter. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, there you go. Well, let's go ahead and read these comments, and then we will get out of here for the night. A great show as always. Good question by Ruth the Truth. Thanks a lot for tuning into the Evolution. Rocking the hat. Eric says, I'm stupid. Do we still have Will Golston or no way? And is he going to start as our third defensive lineman? Yes, they still have him. No, you're not stupid because you're on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. So that was the great decision on your part. You can't be stupid for making that decision. Vikings are as well. We'll see. It's pouring in Tampa right now. That it is. Best virtual edits video. I think every team's goal every year is to win the Super Bowl, but it's different when they actually believe it. And that's an intangible that Brady can bring to this team. Yash says, SI put an article out saying we are not going to win the Super Bowl. We can't pull it together in time. And of course, they said 8-8. Do better. Sports Illustrated, best virtual edits video. Andrew, get right, man. Where you been? Rick Hughes is a Gerald McCoy hater. That's okay. Laugh Out Loud, best virtual edits video. He will criticize McCoy forever. That's okay. You can do that here on the Sports Web. But everyone deserves an opinion, just like Hughes. Yes, sir, J. Cole. That's always a great one. You have Laugh Out Loud Bucs Report, Laugh Out Loud again, Laugh Out Loud Chris Landry Football. Again, we're a part of the Landry Football Network. Check us out on the Chris Landry Twitch channel. And, of course, all these platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Join the 65,000 following we have here on Facebook 5 nights a week. It is Bucs Report and the Sports Web. Best virtual edits video. We don't have a backup center. I thought we invested in some solid center as an undrafted free agent. And Mike says, so blame the quarterback for missing field goals, shaking my head. Wow, that makes no sense. It does not make any sense. And, of course, you saw my defending of it. It is not the quarterback's fault for that game. It was not. He had struggles because he was trash. Stop simping. I don't know what that means. Fun night. Some of you guys need to call instead of just typing in comments, but that is the great thing here about the evolution of sports talk television. Is it a TV show? Is it a radio show? It's both. You could be a webhead on the phone. You could be a webhead text, but you're always welcome. Whether you're a Bucs fan, a Saints fan, hell, even a Cowboy fan or a Patriot fan, you're always welcome on the Sports Web 5 nights a week on Bucs Report, a part of the Landry Football Network. Do 3 things for me early on the Saturday morning. And be safe, guys. Bring your passion. Bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake, and I'll see you on Monday night with the Tampa Bay Sports Talk legend Al Keck and Leo Haggerty. Have a great weekend. You're now in the Sports Web, a sports talk show for the hardcore fan. Bring your passion, bring your excitement, just don't bring any nonsense.